Welcome.
Tom, and welcome to your 23 viewers too.
Hello there.
Oh, hey that 2014, thanks for hitting that follow button.
Welcome on in, and welcome readers. Feel free to drop in, drop right on in, and there is that champion of the hill.
Hello
Right
there.
off the bat. Quite surprised that works. No problem at all. So, Tom, thank you very much for bringing your raiders. I appreciate it. There's never harm to do so. I feel spoiled that you do it every day. So thank you to Yellow for dropping on in, and a fantastic Sherlock Fox, and I see Mama Bear as well. Oh, wonderful, wonderful. It says latest aesthetic on Monday, most days. Today I am working on the Durmstrang ship, which you should see in your corners. Here's a hit the reset on the drop. There we go. And it's from the Tri-Wizard Tournament Arrival set. We have already finished the Bobatton's carriage, and we're continuing off the ship today. So, what I'm going to do but get that started. But the whistle maybe.
Ads are starting.
I need a
Dylan
new
will continue the
game
conversation after the ads are
Fox keeps
over.
winning that one.
Thank you for supporting the stream.
Well, it's ad time. Alright, so we're going to start off real quick. I'm just going to set this part aside briefly, and we're going to show you what we built last week. So we have the Bobatton's carriage for the French School of Magic, which I believe is stationed in Paris. And then its top pops off, and inside I just kind of tossed everybody. So we have the Tri-Wizard Tournament Cup. we have their star, their show, Fleur Delacour. And we have the Canadian Royal Pain in the Backside, Mr. Barty Crouch Sr. That's it for the inside stuff.
Welcome.
So last week I couldn't get the horse to stand level and everything just kept falling apart. I just made a simple mistake. Aside from that,
Thank you for 15 long months of subscribing,
Is-
J1976.
I had had the
They said, Del
forked,
Hay.
2x2 sitting on top rather than below, and a minor mistake like that just made all the difference. So, good morning to Puppy. Hi, Puppy. Good to see you. You know, I call you that because I call you Puppy because by default that's how I know you from the Dadcraft 73 community. But if you would ever prefer to be called something else, like, for example, in a lot of cases, so I forgot this one, the actual Charizard Tournament Competitor Selection Cup. If you would actually ever want to be called something else, do let me know. Because, for example, like, I actually would, when possible, prefer to be Delenn, as opposed to simply Del. I just broke the cup. Yay! So I'm just going to set this aside. Thank you very, very much for the resub, Jay. I appreciate that. Always a treat. Because I do know, especially when you're paying in non-American currency, that there's a cut taken, and by the time it gets into my Canadian pocket, it's an even bigger cut. So I'm really glad that you feel willing to support, but please remember never to get yourself in a tight spot. Okay, so we need this one back. We can roll right on through. Thank you, Mountain Bear, for catching that shout out. Apologies again, guys, for the do-rag. I started working on getting the massive mat out of my hair and realized that I had to shower out all the gunk and whatever, and there's still a mess of knots. So, do-rag for one more day, and then hopefully we'll get it done fairly quickly. But tomorrow you won't see that. So we're going to start with putting these on the side. Now, for those of you that may not remember who Durmstrang is, or where Durmstrang is, in the 4th Harry Potter book, Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire, they have a ship coming from technically an unspecified area of Eastern Europe. For practical purposes, it's essentially Russia. However, their star person plays for, even though he's still in school, he plays for the Bulgarian national Quidditch team. So, make of that what you will. They have a weird geography in this world. Am I doing that other thing 2 times? Just once, okay. There's strange geography in this world where things are treated almost linearly. So, for example, even though we know north to south, we've got Russia and such north of China. In the Harry Potter world and in most conversations, it doesn't matter about that because they're sort of visually more European style, so they get treated as if they're closer to the European side. I don't know why that is. Suffice to say that very different attitude out of that group. They did an excellent job casting that character, the main character for the Durmstrang team, Victor Crumb. They did a good job casting him when they made the first round of Harry Potter books to screen. And I'm curious to see at some point, hopefully in my lifetime, we'll get around to having a second one. He's one of those, you love him or you hate him, or you love to hate him. And I was the latter category. Right. I mean, one of the things we find in those books, we've got Hermione, one of the famed trio, being courted by Victor Crumb, And she agrees to it partly because she's annoyed with Ron not showing enough interest at that point, and depending on the reader's age, you may or may not pick up on the fact that he was interested. But it's really obvious when Victor is. So she's dating him. But it's kind of like, and just about any girl in school, in grade school or whatever, agreeing to date the star jock from their sports team simply because it gets them the notoriety in the school and potentially get attention from the one they really wish they were getting dated by. So we've got a little tiny cup in here now. It's in clear. And we're going to roll it in. I'm not sure what that's referring to. I'm going to assume that they're going to use that as basically a kitchen of sorts. So the Durmstrang crew and the Beauxbatons crew passengers, I guess, have their accommodations on their mode of transport. So the Durmstrang group stayed on the ship overnight every time, and they are seen to be doing things like jumping off the edge of the ship to go swimming in the Black Lake, in spite of the knowledge that there is a large squid in the lake and other lovely sea creatures that we do not want to deal with. Extra bits already. Oh, right, yes. Got some other things. Sorry. So it's one of those magical ones where on a ship you could possibly see that they would get enough space. I mean, that kind of makes sense because ships are big. Right. But on the Beauxbatons carriage, it's one of those examples of the Wizarding World ability to expand things larger than they really are. So, very TARDIS-like, I guess you could say. It's one of those ones that's bigger on the inside than it is on the outside. On to bag 4. Ready for an adventure. That show. Epic Worlds and Gaming Challenges with Poppy. I love that descriptor. I was incredibly spacey, as usual, I guess, when I closed down the Dadcraft 73 patron stream with Ed last night. And so I got to rambling about all sorts of things. And I was tired from camp and worn out, whatever. And a couple times before that, before the stream started, I had been saying I wanted a nap and I was going to doze off and things like that. And made it through the stream. So you would think that a smart person would go have dinner and go to bed. Well, hello! 6:15 a.m. rolls round. And my ADHD self had gone and torn down and rebuilt the kelp farm again. Yeah. Not so smart. So I'm not yawning yet, but if I do, no need to excuse me. Feel free to mock me. It's my own silliness. People just never learn. Game Nader would have right chuckle at that one because there's the odd time she checks in just to say hello and hope your day was good and all that kind of stuff. And then she says, and by the way, go to bed. Hey, you, go to bed. Or what time is it for you? And I'll tell her what time it is. And she's like, yeah, it's late. Go to bed. And sometimes, well, most of the time I do, but there's the odd time, yes, I will. 2 hours later. That's not very common, though. So I don't know what it was. Something about being home and being back gave me I don't know, I wouldn't call it second wind by that point. It's like eighth wind, I guess. But I have a video in my to watch later list from YouTube that I probably should get around to. And no, it's not just around to a comment. The title of the video is Poor Sleep Habits Are Literally or Physically Killing Us. And I'm pretty sure it's clickbait, but I want to see, because it's from a channel, The Sci Show, in science. So I'm kind of curious what they have to say about that sort of thing. And whether or not it'll be enough to tip the mental scales that will actually remind me to go to bed. Setting that on. And then 20 minutes of audio. Good. You just missed the best part. Unfortunately, I was not stealthy when I came to bed this morning and woke up poor Fantastic Sherlock Fox, which was not good because one of the things I caught before I turned in was the fact that we didn't just have a snow warning. One of the weather report systems we use, sometimes called AccuWeather, is usually pretty good, but it seems that it's been up to lunch a little bit, so I wasn't paying too much attention when it said snow warning. I'm like, yeah, sure, whatever. I'd known about it for a week or whatever that they said snow was coming. Our first major snow of the season. Then in the morning, Fantastic Sherlock Fox, when he came to wake me up initially, he said, yeah, we have 5 to 6 inches on the ground. It's like, oh, well, that's not good. Everybody got to school and such okay, but a somewhat tired fox slogged through the snow with my son up to his school bus. Not because he has to, because my son really enjoys the company, and sometimes they get to talking, so if that's what works for them, sure, but yeah, I feel extra bad that I woke him up when I came in, because he needed a bit more shut-eye, for sure. Fox has important things to do, I just ramble, so, you know, his important things pay the bills, my rambling is not. And therefore, I shouldn't be doing that to him. But, you know, as everybody who's ever known anybody who is squirrely can vouch, shoulda, coulda, woulda, and will we ever learn from it? Probably not. Oh, I was looking for a chair. So I'm looking. I need a bracket instead. Okay. They need a shovel. Whoa. Yeah, that's not one that we can successfully foist on the kids at the moment. I mean, it's early enough in the season that they might agree, but then you'd end up having some of it waiting till after school. And with 5 to 6 inches, that's not reasonable when you've got places to go during the day. But I will admit, sometimes I get a chuckle out of cheesy things when I'm tired or should have been tired. Today's silly chuckle as we started the stream was the first song to play on my playlist. I can't remember who it was by at the moment, but it was called Divergent. And I just... Oh, Divergent, and the artist was... I pronounce it, this is Oi, but it was O-O-Y-Y. That says something. Just more that it knew. It knew. Ooh, sticker time! Hey, now where did I put the stickers? That's the next one. Oh, wait, I know. I'm going to do them. I put back the package with the booklet so that it can get mushed up. There we go. Great. So sticker time. So I can do them straight today. At least straighten up if I'm happy with it. Twice, so I have to each side. Okay. It's this weird feeling with the stickers today that I'm going to get them crooked. Because it seems odd to me that they warp the opposite direction, but it's just because the piece is... That's not feeling right. Yeah, that's not feeling right. I think I did that one wrong. Let's see. Entirely wrong. Woohoo! There's 2 that go that way. 2 that go the other way. One thing, put right side up. Once again, upside down because I like the squareness. Go first. Try again. That's a little bit better. It wasn't a first time placement, but it wasn't a fourth time placement, so I'm happy with that. Alright, let's get the other side. The song is called Slow Food by Yellow Bass. No idea who Yellow Bass is, but anybody that can write a song about slow food or called Slow Food, it's a shout out in my books. That's cool. Side down, side up. Fun. Thicker be square-ish. It is a bit of an odd one, but I like it. I don't know if I'd listen to a whole album of this style, but I like this one. Sticker isn't perfect, but it looks square enough that I'm just gonna leave it. Where does this go? On this side, and I'll tip it so you guys can see. This side. Right. Very grumpy portholes. Menace and Shovel Foxes. I've already shoveled once, but it was a bit of a sloppy job since it's still coming down. Oh! Okay. So is it, what? The winter sheep are back. My daughter, who's very much into sheep, has this thing about sheep we've talked about, where she has just about anything you could think of as an excuse that's because of sheep. So when you think of snow coming down, it's various different varieties and job descriptions of the winter micro sheep. Yep. So the winter micro sheep are coming down, and sometimes here we get snow that kind of looks to me like someone has ripped a hole in a feather pillow and then shaken all the down all over the place. But because nope, Mom, those are just the larger size micro sheep. Okay, sure. So, what do we think of shoveling micro sheep today? Wet and sloppy, apparently. It can be pretty heavy. I made a bad decision to come down. No, I was not waiting for that joke. It just popped into my head. One of the difficulties of having things pop into my head and then immediately deciding to say them is a lack of control, but also that sometimes things were funny when my head heard it the very first time, and then by the time it pops out, it's not funny. Yeah, the ship really is grumpy looking. I love it. That's very Lego for you, right? Most days were underexposed. Today we're overexposed. Love the consistency. Light. I mean, it's a really neat design structurally. It's very well supported, and yet it's got some visual interest. Like when we look down from the inside, at the inside, it has some visual interest. Not simply hiding pieces, because some of it would be exposed if you were minifig scale running around on the inside. This is not correctly minifig scale, but I mean, Lego talks about minifig scale and very rarely ever uses it, at least in my experience. Now, I don't think they're likely to be lurking. However, if anyone does see Valente lurking or Valente Productions or is in contact with them, simply noting that I've been watching a few of their videos lately, and I'm liking the work they have. Definitely, if you have not checked out this person on YouTube, you really should. 2, 3, 4. However, my only feedback is that there are some times when they're doing live action material as opposed to talking about what's on a website, where I unfortunately can't stay continually glued to the screen part, simply because they remind me of Fantastic Sherlock Fox in that they appear to enjoy pacing and potentially a lot of hand-talking movements. And when Fox does that sort of thing, it can make me a little bit nauseous. He doesn't do it very often. Like, he doesn't do it much during, say, a handheld phone cam he wants to show me or something like that. But that's one of the few things that gets me with any streamer, is when they're doing a handheld camera of some sort, and then they can't stand still and they have to pace. Which is part of why I try to not actually have an over-the-shoulder cam that I can physically hold. On the other hand, some of the gadgets, my goodness, people seem to make money out of anything and everything these days. Where I'm coming from in this one is, I saw a gadget advertised, for some reason advertised to me, so I'm not sure exactly what they scraped. Maybe the fact that I have VODs, I don't know. But they were trying to market to me a headband, of all things, that you could wear, that then you could clip your phone into, so people would get your eye view, I guess, of things, was sort of the point. I don't know if it's meant to be like a VR thought without being VR, but anyways, it was not a great idea. The demo video was one of the most not motion sick creating things I have actually seen in a very, very long time. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, I got one. And then the second piece, another one of those 6 with 2 by something. Need to away one of my helpers because I have 2 sets of chat on the window at the moment, and one of them was blocking what we're looking at. Okay, there we go. Alright, so yeah, that was unfortunate, but when people were demonstrating stuff, this particular example was in the demo video, was they were actually talking about, I think they had 2 models. They had the chest cam mount and a head cam mount, and one of them, I guess, somebody like wrapped around their baseball cap or something. I don't know why that would make a difference, but they did. Maybe the presenter was balding or some such, but they were showing the head cam version, and then the second version they were showing was a chest mounted version, so like a little harness, and they were using it for people who wanted to show cooking. That was their example. But the person in the footage was swaying while they were cooking, and they kept sort of doing a bit of a turn and things, and the whole camera was like swaying all over. And they said, can even come with an optional gimbal mount. I'm like, yeah, better grab one of those. That better be the cheap part, because everything else was swimming. So I'm not a saint by any stretch of the imagination. But sometimes I would like to watch my footage still. It's something we're sort of trained to be looking for. And it doesn't always work out when people are in motion. Okay, so we got the panel for the upper deck. You know, though, that they've created this whole like, cabin sort of thing that's nearly enclosed. Yeah, well, that's the thing. I mean, I could see it. They said basically their argument was that their whole rig setup, because it could hold your cell phone you already own, they were saying that it was less expensive than buying a branded name GoPro or similar. So I suppose if you want to fall for that, you can. But I just couldn't see it. And the GoPro example footage they were giving was somebody who was in English. The footage was showing off the GoPro's anti-shake feature that some models have, so that you could, once again, as a marathoner, for example, put it on your chest, or I guess, mount it to your sweatband or something, or whatever, so that the person was running down the road and the camera was not getting all the road shake business. Which is mildly funny, because sometimes when you see smaller companies starting to advertise stuff like that, you end up with situations where one person may be advertising the thing that you want to do, but the person capturing the footage can be seen in the footage, and they're running or attempting to run backwards while holding one of those handheld Steadicam gimbals. And that always makes me chuckle, because I'm just waiting for that moment. It rarely comes, but I'm waiting for that moment where the camera guy falls over, and you sometimes wonder if the footage has cut off just before that point. And so did they cut right at that spot because their camera guy fell over? Minor flashback to yesterday's conversation during the stream. I was all about talking about the campfire songs we did at camp this weekend. One of the songs I did, we talked about sometimes when you don't remember all the lyrics, you kind of make it up as you go along. So this time, I was doing another one that we'd done for many, many years called Father Abraham. Father Abraham has 7 sons, sir. And then there's an action to it. So, what was it? Father Abraham has 7 sons, sir. 7 sons, sir, has Father Abraham. And they didn't laugh and they didn't cry. All they did was go like this. And then you do some sort of action that you just keep repeating over and over. And you can either repeat it, or some people will have an action for the main part of the song that repeats, and then you do whatever the silly thing is. Well, some part of me thought it was a great idea to... actions I chose involved flapping one arm, then flapping the other arm, then sort of flapping out one of your legs, and then the other leg. Okay, so far so good. Then I decided, okay, well, let's do a squat. Why not? And then after that, I thought... the dumb bit was then I thought, okay, let's do a jump spin, like a jump turn, which worked through everything except, conveniently, the very last verse. So the way I grew up knowing the song is about whatever actions you've chosen to do. At the very end, you do the whole thing, and then you just say, Father Abraham, I'm tired. Well, my version, unfortunately, happened to involve me falling over from a failed spin. And so I actually, quite literally crashed on the ground. And one of our leaders, who's usually a real pain in the back, actually checked with me later in the evening and says, "You're not sore, are you?" And I said, "Well, no, not physically. My ego was a little bruised, but I think the rest of it was fine." So, yeah. The things that I will do when I'm a little giddy is not necessarily the safest thing, but I made sure we had, as we like to put it, at least a beaver's height from the fire pit. So when we say a beaver in our scouting group, basically it's a 5 to 7-year-old. Most of them aren't very tall. Ours are particularly short this year. I'm not quite sure why, but the group we had at camp were really, really quite short. So, the long and the short of that is be careful what you dream up. It could actually cause you minor injuries. Anyhow, I'm not sure why I got onto that point. There was some connection. Do I remember what it was? No. As one of the YouTubers I watch says, and I unfortunately started to pick up using, my ADHD has been ADHD hardcore.
Oh, hello there!
Oh, yes, thank you, Metalhead, for your timely arrival. That reminded me. Cameraman falling over, exactly. That's where I was going. Was things making me nauseous, and you wonder if the advertiser's camera guy fell over. Yes. Thank you, Jay. Perfect. See, sometimes, Jay, you are my memory. 1, 2... Right? Okay, it does hang over. So we are basically building now the front section to match these layers in the back. Which, when I take a glance now, it does remind me quite a lot of the sort of vertical stylings that you see on, I gotta twist more, on, say, a Viking ship. Stereotype layers that you see on the wood to only on the second one. Good. Yes, thank you. I still haven't seen the VOD. Oddly enough, nor have I actually seen the structure he built, but I will probably by the end of the day. I'm very slightly distracted by some sound above me. But I hear it went well. He said it was probably a very vanilla stream because he didn't use all the bells and whistles, which I can't imagine why he needs all the bells and whistles. But then again, that's what he says to me over and over, so pot kettle black and all that. But I find him, I mean, I married the guy, but obviously, but I find him really engaging to listen to as a speaker. Part of his job does entail a bit of public speaking at times, and he's certainly far better at it than I am. So that's one of the reasons he doesn't do a face cam, is because he has to do enough stand-up presentations with meetings and sometimes public symposiums and things like that. And it's not necessarily a privacy issue. It's sometimes also that he's got other things. He just doesn't want to deal with the whole face cam biz. Cool. If he did, you would end up really just seeing when he's tired and stuff like that. That's not necessarily the greatest. It's decided he's a secret spy who falls asleep after movies, right? Especially those movies. My kids were trying to figure out what a Hallmark movie was after Fantastic Shockbox brought it up at dinner, just to say that I missed the Hallmark movie. And then we got a brief synopsis of the Hallmark movie. But the kids were fairly enthralled, I'm sorry to say. And on the other hand, I will say that the one that our community watched together with Dadcraft and so forth on the week, like last week, was certainly a Hallmark movie, unlike any that I've seen before. Usually the ones I see are very emotionally sappy with regards to things like who's dating whom, and one of those ones where you can see people getting together a mile away. I mean, not that this movie didn't have that, but that's often what a lot of it boils down to for me in Hallmark movies. And sometimes they're about who can come for the holidays, or who reneges on somebody else and said they'd be there and disappoints their mom and all that other jazz. And this one was not like that. So I'm glad that it was something new. Breakfast. Yes, what are you making for breakfast? Eggs? Eggs with cheese and sourdough toast. Interesting. So what's your favorite egg style? I actually was having this conversation with the kids on the weekend because they were arguing about whether or not to make scrambled eggs or easy over fried eggs. They ended up going with scrambled in the end because as leaders for safety reasons we kiboshed easy over.
They said, when
hey Gary, welcome back.
Dozen.
Thank you. I talked over Oswin on that one, but I'm going to go back and see if I got a transcript of what he said. Oh, yes. Okay, cool. Woohoo! The Baker's Dozen. On the one screen I didn't get to see the text of what you said. But hearing Oswin talk about a Baker's Dozen was a bit of a smile, so I like that. Thank you. Thank you.
Hello.
Gary, what have you been working on lately? You busy person. So we were asking about eggs. I was asking Madeline what kind of eggs they were making. What's their favorite way to cook the eggs? Because we had kiboshed our teenagers preteens and teens trying to make eggs at a camp. This group is half decent at their cooking. The other half is certainly not. Other half decent, I mean. I did it again. I am forever doing this. Sorry, what I got frustrated by is sometimes when I'm not paying attention, I will mirror build what the thing should be. And that's clearly not going to work because we've already built the other side. Yeah, we have to kibosh the youth because when they're cold and when they're hungry, they can get cranky with each other, or they can feel pressured, which gets them, unfortunately, to stop their cooking process earlier than is safe. And so we don't want them eating raw eggs simply because the conditions we're in, even in a standing camp that's recognized camp, they would sometimes would stop cooking or have stopped cooking before it's really safe to eat. So even though you can do what's called coddling an egg to make it quasi-safe, I guess, for things like Caesar salad dressing. You're not usually having a whole lot at that point either. But when it comes to camp, you have to cook things through. You can't do dippy eggs, I'm afraid. I would love to, but no, we can't do dippy eggs at camp because that we don't want the kids to get sick. We're not 100% sure at all times that the eggs weren't, left out enough, or the weather hadn't shifted enough to cause problems with the cooling process. So that was great, but yeah. Someone said, well, I prefer it that way. I said, this is one of those weird times that I have the luxury of saying, I don't care what you prefer. This is not a youth-led situation. You are not doing it that way. Well, is Gary actually a streamer? Or is that a bit like we did with Fantastic Sherlock Fox earlier on, where it was a community event that everybody wanted to watch, so they streamed their part of it, like bingo? There's a possibility like that. I know that some in, for example, the Griffin Prime community never stream except when they're playing the community bingo night, and then they let their feed out live. But if Gary has neat other things to say, I would love to hear them. At the moment, the best I could offer, unfortunately, is to say I'll add you to my VOD list. But that's just because I'm that disorganized. Mass Effect. Ooh. It might not be for everyone. We have a few that in our community that flag their video games and flag their streams as not family friendly. And that's fine. That's why they're not on the Streamcraft 73 team, because there's a requirement for family friendly on that. But then there's a few that are on the team or whatever. And they've talked about it in the past, but there are some games they will play that are technically rated for teens or more. Like, they're not necessarily 100% family friendly games. But the thing is, frequently it's often because of maybe it's going to be like a scare thing, like a phasmophobia type thing or similar, which is popular within the community.
Hello
and some
there.
people, where the unfamily friendliness in that case would come from is not actually the game itself, but it would be more likely the streamer if they're the type of person that would accidentally cuss when they got jump scared. Hey, Wolfen! Wolfen is the first person of the Tom Raid. Not quite, but thank you very much for coming by. I appreciate it. It is Monday, okay. I had to check to see if it's Monday because I was just about to ask Wolfen if she was streaming today, which is kind of a silly question. It's Monday. If anything, it's grocery day and probably dance day. Right? Right? You know, if someone does dance and sing along to things while they're going through the grocery stores, one of the weird things my brain would want to do is not to specifically to mess with them, but to suggest, you could make it a bit of a goal. If you've got the time, that's the key, is if you've got the time. To try and visit as many different grocery stores as you can, so that if you accidentally get caught, by other passers-by, dancing and singing and humming along and so on to whatever Tom's playing, for example, that make it a goal to be doing that in as many different locations as possible. Start playing music on speaker for them. That'd be hilarious. Impromptu dance party. Woohoo! Alright, so we're working on the upper deck. I'm hoping this is press squishable. I say that as the music goes to something completely not danceable. Let's just skip that one for now. It's a nice song, but not quite where we're at today. Oh, song titles. This next song title is called Are We Out of Time? I think they mean are we out of place in time? But it feels like they're saying, like, have we run out of time? There is something wrong with my build, because I should be adding another piece to it before it becomes level with the white section at the end here, and I have got it level now, so I have missed something. Ah, yes, I know what it is. Okay. Pull that up. I did Adele. You know? Well, I have not danced openly in a grocery store. I've danced at a bus stop. Because I was working on a dance that I was going to be doing at my blogging club and needed to get my head around some of the steps. So while I was idly standing at the bus stop, I was tapping my feet in a similar sort of way. I've hand danced a fair bit, which is just when you use your hands as your feet and do the same steps you would do with your feet, which is a lot like people who tap on their laps when they're just keeping the beat of a song. Time and place, right? When it, Mama Bear says, Wolf and I feel like you'd be highly entertaining and they would love you. And yes, Stewie and Peter, I do remember that. Those guys, from two characters from Family Guy, but also Stewie and, well, I don't know about Peter, but Stewie and Brian the dog would probably not have any problem getting caught publicly dancing, because they could blame it all on Peter, just because he's not with it. Yeah, Wolfen's not sure people would find that highly entertaining. Maybe it really is just the time and place, insofar as what the location's meant for. That doesn't necessarily mean I wouldn't. So I guess it's one of those situations where as people go out the door, don't do something I would do. There's quite a lot. I say that on the one hand, other times I get struck with a total fear of people thinking I'm weird. Or, what do they call it? Rejection sensitivity. Yes. And so it's like, no, even though it's the right time, the right place in certain situations, it's like, no, I don't want to look dumb. I don't want to feel like people are staring at me. Which is not great when that sort of feeling suddenly occurs and you're actually at a dance convention. And they're done that. Oswin has not yet billed me, which I'm impressed by. So Oswin is our fine bot who's actually connected into a version of ChatGPT. I don't know what there is to say about that, I guess. But by being into that, or somewhere, somebody wants money for that, which is, I guess, sensible, because that's how you make improvements, is when people can afford to be paid that are working on making things improve. So I originally just checked $10 American at this and went, oh, well, you know, when it runs out, it runs out. We're now looking at like 4 or 5 months of, maybe not that bad, 3 months at least, of having Oswin be his Oswin-y self, and haven't had a bill above that $10 yet, as in like it hasn't eaten it up. So I'll go with it. Why not? One from the back here, and a second arch. Archways. So I keep expecting that he's going to bill me but it never does. Yeah, it's not Mulan. Geek Out answer to the question was miscellaneous. One film in which fireworks appear. Hence the fireworks. I would... Actually, they do appear in Mulan now that I think about it. The answer is Mulan. And if you are Emperor Waldensbury III, you know what I mean. But yeah, there is fireworks, I believe, during the celebrations with the Emperor in Mulan. Let's see, what's another one? It's the only one. We've got two so far. And the third one I can think of that probably has them is Tangled. During the Lights Festival, that they no longer need to have as a Lights Festival by the end of the movie. And so there's probably like a fire... I think there was a fireworks celebration in lieu of the lanterns, but it's been a bit of a thing, so they probably put both in there. I can't remember that part of the movie too specifically, but it would make a very good sense. Valente's ears must have been burning. Oh boy. So, as I put my foot in my mouth, yes. Aladdin. I can't remember if there's fireworks or not in that one. Now inquiring mind wants to know. Let me put it on the ship. Okay. So this one has 5:15. It's Monday. I don't know why I said that. Huh. I don't know what this song is about, but it's called Catching Fire. LVLY. Lively, I guess? And Die, D-A-I. I often pick instrumental pieces, but this is from a playlist somebody else put together of Epidemic soundtracks. Epidemic sound, yeah, tracks. There you go, I guess. And I've been liking what they've been putting on here, but I haven't gotten bored of it yet. So I guess I shouldn't when their list is 300 songs long. I'm not playing it in a linear format. Right. Ah, cool! Cool that there were fireworks in Aladdin. Total score there. Get rolling that one then. We're on to games or themed versions of Angry Birds. Really? I know my kids play Angry Birds a lot. I know what it is. I've done like mock adult real world versions of Angry Birds. Great activities for scouts, but you don't need to go back there. So I've done that, but I don't think I've ever played a themed one that I know of. So if there's anyone else who doesn't have any answers to this, we can certainly roll it fresh. Come on, you. Red. Red. I'm trying to put the rudder on, and it does not want to go. Come on, you. One of those ones where, like, you need to get both pieces on at the same time. Here we are. That's kind of a neat piece. It's sort of, it has some playability to it. Not that I would necessarily play with it, but posability, I guess, might be better. Okay, we're on to the next one. With, as we just mentioned earlier, Victor Crumb. Set the ship aside. Next bag. Huh. Oswin, that is a very good shout out for a change. Thank you for catching that, Mama Bear. I appreciate it. I didn't put them in the box in the right order, apparently. Yep, I can get every bag except bag 5 at the moment. There we are. Got all the way down to bag 9 before 5 popped up. I don't know. fairly random. That's pretty neat. Jay, do you 10-pin bowl? I haven't in years. I'm terrible at it, but I enjoyed 10-pin bowling. Actually, I'll be honest. That makes me miss my Wii. I used to have a Nintendo Wii, and one of the games I absolutely loved actually was their bowling game. It's not very realistic because video games, but it actually wasn't bad to play. I could see why it would be a hit in, say, a seniors complex. Alright, so we're assembling Victor Crumb. He's got some really nice printed parts, but until we get an overlap, I'm just going to assemble, then I'll show it to you all at once. Do, but not as much as you used to. Ooh. Well then, I suppose Jay's probably a member of the Over 300 Club. Alright. Oh, okay, so we do have double faces, and I've missed the color. I get talking and I miss things. Okay, he's got faces, his body, there's his hair. Ah, there's the color. Bit of a weird color on this one. It's scruffy, but it doesn't, yeah, it sticks up a lot. It almost looks like they've reused another design that would be normally going the opposite direction, but it only fits on one way. Okay, so I will show you the head separately because it'll get kind of hidden by the collar. Okay, Wii bowling and Wii pinball were awesome, for sure. I miss them both. Apparently there's a pinball game you can play on the Switch, but it's one of the old Nintendo, pre-GameCube, Nintendo something or other. And so therefore they have not updated it and it looks kind of cheesy. Okay, so he's got two faces available. We've got the semi-smirky smiling one because he thinks he's the best thing since sliced bread, maybe. And then there's the grumpy one, things don't go his way. And I like that it's more modeled off the books than the movies, because the movies had Victor being clean shaven. If I remember correctly. I could be wrong, but I thought he was clean shaven. And but then the books definitely had him with facial hair. Let's make him happy-ish, because he's just arriving. Yeah. You know, if you still happen to know others that bowl, I hear via extended family from ours, or our extended family, who is part of a 5-pin bowling league. They say after the passing of your family, it's a little easier to get back into if you can go with friends. So yeah, you would be nostalgic, but friends can A, help distract, and B, give you something else to pay attention to rather than just the emotions of what you're feeling. So there's the full outfit. You can see he's got the fuzz printed all the way down to his legs. That you can see a little bit. Even there's a printing line on the bottom edge of his boot. A little black line down there, wiggly. I think that's a bit unnecessary, but it looks good. It's wintry. And then the back side looks pretty plain from here, but actually I forgot to show you the back before I put the collar on. But they did print on some extensions of the collar. Well, it's a nice thought. They might have saved themselves a partial currency or two if they hadn't put that particular detail on, just because if you're going to put the collar on properly, you're never going to see it. It covers over. You can see that covers over the back. As is my usual practice, I'm not going to give him a wand, just because I tend to lose them. So they're going to go in the wand boxes. There's our Victor Crumb. This over here on the screen, sort of. Right. And let's get back at it. So we've got one of these weird table-shaped pieces. I find them annoying. I kind of wish they could build them, because you could see fairly easily that you could do it with a circular base that has a stud on the top, and then one of these almost like telescope-shaped pieces in gray. And I've seen the dome bit that they have on the top with the studs. I've seen those with a stud on the top so that it would connect inwards. so they could have done that, but it's probably stronger this way because the pillar, you can barely see on the gray, is thicker than it is on the top of the gold. So there might be something to it in terms of making the thing a little bit more sturdy for playing reasons. Most of the pieces in Lego, I can understand what they're for, and people can use them creatively, but there's the odd one here and there I kind of go, why did you spend the research and development money to create that? I just don't follow, and this is one of those pieces. Yeah, you're right. He had some 5 o'clock shadow for sure. Interesting. Also, I think maybe the reason they had him being a little more clean-shaven in the movies might actually be purely down to the fact that it's a little easier to deal with / explain away when he decides to convert his head into a shark. Because they use that in one of the tasks where they're underneath the Black Lake surface. But I would suspect that because in a lot of the other Animalia transformations in the series, there are usually remnants of the person's humanoid form, or elements of them, that are still around, and they don't disappear entirely. For example, Minerva McGonagall in the first book and movie transforms herself out of being a cat. In the first book, it's twice, I believe. And so if they were actually, to let you know that that is her as opposed to some other cat, then they have, oops, wrong way. And then they have markings for spectacles around her eyes. Another one of those ones, hit backwards. Turn it around. Okay. Another one of those ones that implies markings a little bit is if you take a look at what a wolf, real wolf would be, then you can sort of see that the face on the werewolf for Remus Lupin is a little bit too narrow, partly because the character is described as having a sort of a narrower, longer face. So they kept that element. Sirius Black is often described as being dressed in a black-based outfit, and part of the reason for that fits well with it when he is being his animagus animal self. That's a black-themed wolf-ish character that fits fairly well that way. So there's usually hints of it, and if they had stubble on, like a whole ton of goatee or stubble on Victor Crumb's face, it just would have been a little more difficult for those that cared about those sorts of details, and more expensive on the CGI front to deal with erasing as they did the transformation into his head. Although, between you, me, and the trees, I've seen better CGI from movies before that series came out. I keep saying it's a new Discord channel, but we've had it for months. I guess I could change that. I just don't usually think about it. I don't know what this section at the back is supposed to be yet. It's a bit like I'm not sure what it is, but the shape, loosely on quick glance, reminds me of the organ, or piano organ-looking thing in the Pirates of the Caribbean movies, when you've got Davy Jones' ship, and he sits and plays the organ, with a sort of tentacled face, writhing, I guess, while he's playing. And that's what that reminds me of, is the organ there, or a bit of a nod to an even older film. When you take a look at Disney's take on 2000 Leagues Under the Sea, I think. Yeah. I was getting confused between 2000 or 20,000. Either way, the point is still the same. The captain of that submarine had an organ installed, and I don't quite follow why. I think there was one similar on the Nautilus ship in League of Extraordinary Gentlemen, but I'm not fully up on that IP series to know.
Ads are starting. Delen will continue the conversation after the ads are over. Thank you for supporting the stream.
I seem to get less echoiness out of Oswin's verbal pronouncements when I've turned down the source on my end, but occasionally that does mean I miss other things that are usually auditory. So if I miss a redeem sound or something, please do flag the situation to my attention, whether it's your redeem or someone else's, just because it helps you not lose track of what's going on. Yes, I know I said that underneath the break. Yep, this way up. That's another one of those pieces. I get what it is, like it's often similar to one used for arches, but more an inverted version. But it's one that I have not got the skills to figure out how to use such a thing in a mock build. That's MOC, not MOCK. For those of you that aren't Lego style people, because I know there's a few of you that somehow survive this craziness, but come for the community. The box, yeah, it really stands for my own creation, although it seems to me, Valente would have to correct me, because he's more into the community stuff than I am, it seems to me that mocks can also be modifications or alterations to an existing set. So if you just purely monsterized two different copies of a set together to have an extended look at something, then you could call that new version your mock, right? Because it's sort of your own twist on it. But I believe initially it was like suggested as a term for creations from scratch. And one of the more popular styles, I guess, of mocks is to take a set that you like and then alter its scale. I'm just double checking here. Alter the scale of the build such that the situation fits into what people call modular. Yeah, all kinds of terminology. Or as one of my youth would tell me from the weekend, all types of slang. Just because they didn't understand the term, it had whatever I was using, it had to be slang. And it was old people slang. Figure that one. Anyhow, one of the other terms people often refer to when you hear is modular, and minifig scale. You know, scaling part is a bit clearer in the wording of what it really means. It's the scale of a miniature figure, right? Clear. But when you end up with modular stuff, I'm not particularly sure what the scale is officially called. I thought it was supposed to be minifig scale, but sometimes they look really bizarre. But I believe it's based around a scale that is easily multipliable to a 32 by 32 base plate, the great big ones you see that have no stud slots in the bottom. That's as I understand it. I'm not a Lego aficionado in any stretch of the imagination. But, so for example, like it can be a 32 by 32 scale for a lot of things, but if you have a building that just doesn't work at that scale, so for example, maybe we've got a corner shop, or we had an owl post, and it was quite literally a small corner shop. If I scaled it up to 32 by etc., it would look ridiculous in next to anything else. But if you do it in a piece of that, so let's say I had it only be 16 by 16, okay, cool, that would fit the mock scale. And the idea would be that if I was to do a city build or a world build of some sort in a diorama sense, that I would be able to have, or even a playset, I guess, but I would be able to have more buildings to fit in with the rest of that to get the rough 32 scaling we're looking at. And I believe, as I understand it, the modular set, I mean, it's partly to deal with the very, very large display builds that started coming out, but also like to make it easy to break up and take places and so on. But also when modular is a thing, as in it when it's a term and it's caught on, you could easily see that as a way for people to have a standard that they can use as a scale goal to be able to integrate sets from multiple different Lego themes together into a larger build. One of my favorite larger builds, actually, at one of the Lego shows in our city. Mostly local people, but it's some from out of town. But we had Lego builds that had a train theme, and then oddly enough, the same group came to the Model Railroad show, which I thought was kind of odd. But anyway, but they had done a lot of the Lego train series, and then fleshed it out further to involve the buildings alongside, scaled appropriately for the size of the train, and the trains were scaled up or scaled down by the builders. So they've done their own modifications to ensure that the trains were appropriate scale for what they were trying for. One of them that we saw was an electrified, self-running version, so hence the Model Railroad people. Self-running version that was scaled and shaped and stickered up to be the same as our city's local light rail transit, and that was pretty neat. But it was running around through other Lego builds that people had seen. For example, one of the more recent ones would have been the Avengers Tower, which is crazy tall and has a lot of translucent blue windows. I do not envy anybody who puts that together. I mean, I know I would do it, but I don't. One, I'm not into that theme, but two, it's a lot of trans blue. A lot. Okay, so we're working in this section now, I think. Maybe? I'm not sure. Since Disney owns Star Wars, there's a ton of training montages. So one film in which a training montage appears. True. Which actually segues beautifully, or not segues, offers me the opportunity to say that in the tabletop version of the Geek Out game, tabletop? I guess, real world party version, if you would actually use the physical cards, that it specifies in a lot of the box set versions that it would be one from a franchise. So, say for example, if you were looking for race scenes or chase scenes with vehicles, then you could really only mention the Fast and the Furious series once. Right? Or if there was such a thing, spy scenes or something spy-esque, then you really could only mention Ocean's 11 once. Or the Oceans series, whether it's 11, 12, or whatever else. So, for example, if you needed one about time travel, the Back to the Future series would only be once. So, that means your training montage would be one of the Star Wars series, but luckily it was only asking for one. So there's plenty of options to pick from there. Where am I here? Don't just stop. That said, another one that people often think of if you're not into sci-fi, but still semi-movie geeky, I guess, and it would probably be some of the training stuff from either, I was going to say either the the Bloodsport movies would be one of them. Another one that people often think of is the Rocky series of films with boxing. Those ones definitely had some training montages in them. Eye of the Tiger has become quite popularized. I had it right the first time. Partly from that series of films, the Rocky series. But how to train your dragon count? Maybe? I hadn't thought about that one. That'd be a good out-of-box version. See, this is part of why I like Fantastic Sherlock Fox. It makes me think. In good ways. Makes me think. Yeah, probably. But we can roll it since they only asked for one. Whereas this is not just one franchise. Yeah, I'll take this one and then we'll move on. So we've got Kal-El, which was Superman, I believe, and Jor-El, which is his dad. Okay, next. Fictional human astronauts. Okay, there we go. Fictional human astronauts. And no, simply saying Sigourney Weaver doesn't count. I think they wanted exploration-style astronauts, not necessarily space marines. Although, I mean, if we need to default that way, we can go that way. Because I don't remember the names of them, and That's fictional humans. So in that case, I would not consider members of the Apollo 13 team to be fictional astronauts because it was in essence, it's a biopic of an event. Picky, picky, picky. Sure. I guess. I mean, he is a human. That's one that I hadn't thought of. Like that. See, once again, thinking out of the box. I'm trying to remember who was in... Never mind. I can picture some of the movies, but since I haven't actually watched through them, the names aren't sticking. But there's some more recent ones. Involving like Mars travel and such. And then I don't remember any of the characters aside from the computer. Oh, I guess Dave, whatever his last name was, I can't remember. From 2001: A Space Odyssey. You know, HAL 9000 says, "I can't do that, Dave. I'm sorry, Dave, I can't do that." Which is interesting when you think about how technology has progressed. Yeah. Okay. One of the articles that I want to reread, print article at the time, was an article in Wired magazine, which I guess in a way is sort of like Popular Mechanics of today, without being mechanical. But they were actually taking a retrospective look in the 2001, when it became sort of the date anniversary of the Space Odyssey movie. And why am I forgetting the director's name? Anyway, it's Kubrick, I think? Stanley Kubrick. When it became the anniversary, they did a retrospective on technology today and say, okay, compared to the things going on in that film, where are we really at today? And it was kind of neat because I got some surprises out of it. I don't remember too many of the details, but it was sort of fun to read about, okay, as far as how do our astronauts live in space and how does that compare to the daily lifestyle shown in the films? Weirdly enough, there was a touch on, I believe, a very brief touch on archaeology, just to say, no, we've never found any oddball monoliths, and no, we're not stuck in Planet of the Apes. I think somebody got a kick out of that one. Red Dwarf! Hehehe. Lister from Red Dwarf, yes. Jay? If I say one of the other characters on there has their own theme song, so to speak, and now you've got an earworm in my head. While it was not intended, thank you very much. You're making me smile, sort of. Because I'm fighting the urge to sing on camera, and yeah, that one, not appropriate. Red Dwarf is funny as all get out, but some bits are a little on the sketchy double entendre side. Fantastic Sherlock Fox gave a shout out to Bob Breen, which Osmond says. I have to figure out how to work my way around that at some point. Is to have it so that Fantastic Sherlock Fox gives the shout out to Obama Bear or one of our other mods, and it actually picked up. But yes, I now have the I had the Arnold Rimmer song going through my head. If you have not heard it, don't. Only in that it will get stuck in your head. I mean, what often happens from that, though, is my brain really quickly segues onto the Simpsons version of almost like an Oompa Loompa song from the Duff Beer Park, and that was their fake, well, clearly, but the their commercial beer, I suppose. Simpsons is a weird program. I'd rather watch Red Dwarf. Red Dwarf is actually extra funny when it's situational, So, my brief story to that, I live in Canada, and other than my mother having gone on a few vacation trips to parts of the UK, and I got stuck there for, well, not stuck. I was in London for like 7 hours at one point, on the way to and from Sweden. Visited like Ireland a little bit, but point being to this whole thing is growing up, my brother and I were what we jokingly called, I don't know, not even sure if it's a real term, Britophiles. That makes us sound weird, but fans. And so we found people like who enjoy the same as we did. So one of the guys I knew in high school decided he was interested in that sort of thing too. He really wasn't interested. It was just he also was interested in me, and for other reasons I didn't understand that at the time. Anyway, so we would go downtown, like we're from the same school, so we would go downtown, because we both had to take the bus home anyways, and stop at the mall, and we'd go to the British import shop. We'd buy the most horrible snacks. British snacks are usually very good. The snack food ones are good. Like, I actually do enjoy, say, shrimp crisps. But, and I can never get enough Iron Brew, but that's one of those ones that my brain knows better, even though it still tastes really good. But we decided, yeah, we're going to watch British comedy and Doctor Who, old Doctor Who, as in pre the Takeoff reboot that a lot of people talk about these days. So for those of you young people, pre David Tennant, I guess, or pre David Tennant round 1. And so we watched this stuff ad nauseum while drinking Iron Brew and eating sliced bananas on top of ready break with a side of shrimp crisps. Yeah, no accounting for taste, but that's okay. And then when I finished my snack while we were still watching our shows, I would be working on a 25-foot long scarf. No, it was not in the proper Doctor Who colors. I had the friend of mine who wanted me to make it for him. I had him choose the yarn, and so he went with all one color. And I told him I was not super skilled at knitting at that time. He said, "No, that's fine. I just want one made by a friend. That's the point." It's just, and my husband and my son look great in flat caps. I don't think I've seen my husband in a real fedora, like as an actual cloth one, so he might look good in that too. This other guy was all about his fedora and his navy trench coat, and he wanted his 25-foot scarf. So for those of you that know which doctor that is, feel free to fill me in, but I can't remember off the top of my head. Anyways, so it was Doctor Who and Red Dwarf at all hours of the day, I guess you could say, while wired on Iron Brew and Ready Brick. Yeah. High school people are not smart, I'll tell you that. This is an interesting one. So I've got the pieces in. I keep looking at it over and over again because it's supposed to be the same side of the ship, but the curves that we just built are not the same. They're not quite the same angle as this other one. You can see if you catch the glare that's coming off this sticker as I twist it. So glare, 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 and stop. Right just past this face, because there's a lip edge there, whereas it's drawn in the diagram, but based on what it's supposed to be, it's a little bit jarring. I wouldn't say it's a poor choice per se. It's just somehow it did. I don't know. Did we catch? No, actually, it wasn't Tom Baker. In this case, it should have been. That's part of the thing, is it should have been, and this guy was the right height for it too. But there was briefly one other one that dressed somewhat like that, and I think it had to do with the fact that they just kept the costuming after one of the transitions. But anyways, yeah, this guy really wanted the outfit, so sure, whatever, did that. So yeah, I was badly knitting, and what I meant by that is at the time I didn't even know how to deal with like edges so that they laid flat. I'm still not good at it, but I now know what I'm supposed to do. But back then he just wanted it so the whole thing would curl. It just looked yeah, I'm embarrassed by it if I'd still owned it. I mean, I'm embarrassed by the projects I do own. But that said, that was what we used to do, spend hours and hours watching that. Oh, actually, I missed one. And the BBC first version, I guess you could say, of Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. You know, bring your towel and all. But what was the last straw for me and made me kibosh watching any more of that, the Hitchhiker's, at least around this other guy, was, I saw the whole series eventually, but was, first off, my dad got into it, which when your parents get into stuff, you suddenly don't want to watch it anymore. At least as a kid, that's the way it goes. But I didn't want to get in, or didn't want to watch anymore because his friend thought that it would be amusing to me, I don't know where you got that from, if he learned, memorized, and was able to quote off by heart Vogon poetry. If you've ever seen the presentations of Vogon poetry in Hitchhiker's Guide, you'll understand why it's often described, I think it might be both in the books, or at least in the television series, it's often basically described as a form of torture to humans, and you really do not want the auto-translating babelfish stuck in your ear at the time the Vogons get started on their poetry, because it's pretty unlikely you're going to be around or alive by the time they finish. It's the universe's longest stuff. Why? Just why? That's a good question. Very, very good question. Probably because we stupidly at a young age wanted to know more about a pan-galactic gargle blaster. Yeah. Discovered that mixologists have made it into something interesting. In the original situation, it was not. And also we got the joy of seeing a lovely costuming travesty, I guess. I don't know how else to describe it. There's a character in the Hitchhiker series called Zaphod Beeblebrox who has 2 heads. I'm not quite sure what this story is on that one. Like, I can't remember what they said about his space nationality. Nationality? Wouldn't be nationality. Anyway, that it describes it. But the thing is, in that earlier televised version, it was dreadful. Very, very clearly fake in that it didn't even bother attempting any sort of, like, skin tone, or sorry, skin texture replication. It really looks like they actually, like, ripped the head off of a clothing store dummy and just stuck a wig on it, and then somebody added a couple of strings so they could make it bobble when it was supposed to be talking or something. But yeah, you gotta be really, really sugar wired on Ironbrood to put up with that. Why just why is, in the end, Bob, why just why was a question I asked myself about a lot of things I did with that guy. So, finishing that one off, this guy's a may my future never meet someone quite like him again. But then I also know a lot different than I did then. Without maligning anybody, at least not intentionally nor directly, for those of you that are unaware, the Mormons, aka the LDS, or Church of Latter-day Saints group, is against public displays of affection, which is fine. And usually, it just so happens that they often tend to find partners within their churches and stuff. But I can sort of see why, teenage youth in a public school would be interested in someone else. The thing is, I wasn't cluing in. Maybe it was some sort of symptom of my future diagnosis of neurodivergence or something. But anyways, I didn't clue in. And so for a long time, he actually legit thought we were dating. Which explains a few of the odd things, like the poetry that he thought would impress me. So yeah, that kind of, if you start with that deficit to begin with, then you can have an idea where we're going from there. So we had a shared interest set and so on. He went gangbusters. else. Yeah, but it was a really interesting twist. I still am surprised his parents let him hang out with me as much as they did. Not that they were reserved or anything, but we did stuff like we went and jointly purchased a set of throwing knives, like low-end throwing knives, and then we're out hanging out at his house afterwards, and we utterly destroyed one of their mattresses. You know, Lego is a much safer pursuit. Much safer pursuit. Even bad costume cosplay that he actually had the guts to wear to school. And that one wasn't for me. That was because he actually liked it. Poor guy was like 6'4". Oh, jeez. No similarities there, Fox. But 6'4", and did not take well to the sort of ribbing he got for looking like a goofball for wearing his Doctor Who outfit to school. The teachers were fully aware. Oh, shoot. Get that one upside down. The teachers were fully aware of where the theme came from and stuff, so they didn't say much of anything. But the teachers, would ask them, "Are you cold?" "No." "Why are you wearing a scarf and a trench at school, in class, in like May?" I mean, I know we're north of a lot of you fine folks in the U.S. and definitely much more landlocked for weather regions than those in the UK. But yeah, in May we still at least have double digits. Most likely we're getting up into the high teens, if not high teens, if not 20s by that point. And, it is a little bit bizarre to be wearing that. Oh, and he got in trouble, which is kind of funny because that group's stereotypically not the kind that get themselves in trouble. He got in trouble and sent to the office because one teacher was incredibly hung up on the idea that there's no hats in school, ever, for any reason whatsoever. That teacher ended up getting in trouble for because that became a discriminatory thing, not against this guy, but against other groups. But for that time, yeah, this teacher sent my buddy to the office because he was wearing his fedora in class and wouldn't take it off. It's like, dude, are you having a bad hair day or just want to get yourself in trouble? Yes, the Vogon poetry is some of the worst bits to quote. Well, I mean, one of the nice parts about the Vogon poetry, though, is for the most part, in the books at least, it's kind of irrelevant to the story what the content of said Vogon poetry was. Therefore, if you get it wrong, as long as it seems sensible in the rather gray world of what is or isn't poetry, then you can even be the worst poet known to humankind. And if and you're getting all the lines wrong from your stuff you're quoting, then you could still get away with Vogon poetry because any really bad mishaps you have, you just blame it on the Vogons. I mean, there's an implication in the books that people who hear it don't particularly live to tell the tale, so you can kind of make up whatever you want. On the bright side, I mean, I like this guy as a friend, but on the bright side, he was a year ahead of me. So when he graduated out, I went back to my spent more time with my other set of friends from the same school, who were also into Hitchhiker's Guide, but not quite that. Well, okay, obviously not quite that to that extent, but my other friend from the same community, who did not have a crush on me, thank heavens, he decided he was gonna grow his goatee and his hair and whatever, look very scruffy, but then he decided, yeah, so for Towel Day, which I blanked at the moment on what the date of Towel Day is every year, but you're supposed to bring your towel with you. And he came to high school with his towel, and his bathrobe and his like flip-flops. Not really flip-flops, like the flip-flops that don't go up between your toes, I guess. So a type of sandal. They look kind of like open-toed bedroom slippers. And after school was over, because it just happened to be a short day that year, I can't remember what season. I know it wasn't snowing. But anyways, he decided that he was going to take off his shirt. Oh, I did it again. I went upside down. He was going to take off his shirt and then scrunch his pants up as high as he possibly could so that you could barely even see he was wearing any trousers. And we grabbed his towel and a bunch of us who had our towels and stuff, but we went with him and we just went riding around on the city transit and just to see what the reaction of the public would be, the other riders. The bus driver thought we were pretty weird, but he had no real problem. He's like, high schoolers, whatever, they'll do strange things. But yeah, he got some pretty funny looks. One little old lady said, I can take you to buy some pants. It's like, no, it's okay, we're fine. I'm fine. Stretch out. As soon as I get this piece placed, I certainly will. Thank you, Jay. Appreciate it. So anyways, we had a lot of silly fun with that crew. But it was a little awkward when, I didn't realize that one of them had a huge crush on me. Oh well, live and learn, I guess. I was far more discerning later on, hence the eventual matchup with Fantastic Sherlock Fox. Everybody's weird in their own way, but thankfully Fox is a type of weird I could handle and could understand, and he definitely was not as badly hampered in his dating skills as this guy who, his group doesn't believe in public displays of affection. I in short, told the story before, but when Fantastic Sherlock Fox and I first started dating, I had offered, we were good friends, and we'd sat and chatted for 3 hours or something at one of our other friends' houses. Ostensibly, potentially while I was dating that other friend, but I can't quite remember if that was the case or if it was just a friendly house party. But we chatted for a long time, and then we were internet friends and stuff as well in the same city, etc. And then Fox needed to pick up from one of his business trips, and I just happened to be available. So I went to pick him up at the airport. We had plans to go see a movie that evening and grab some takeout and just chill. We didn't make it out of the airport before we were snogging. So yeah. I could blame the ADHD potentially for not being able to remember. Whoops. Okay. Not being able to remember multi-decades later whether or not somebody showed to get a room. I suspect not. But yeah, that's. I can do some dumb things for some days.
Everybody hydrate!
Excellent. Start with this stretch, and that hydrate is for everybody. So that'll be your water, your tea, your pop, your juice, your coffee, your whatever is wet. And you need to have a good sip. I forgot to fill my water, so I'm going to get an extra big swig of coffee because I've ignored my coffee. I haven't even opened it. We take that brief moment to find the wrench shape bit that I shoved onto the floor because I don't have another one sitting easily reachable. Give me a split second and I will be right back. How rude, guys. I apologize. When you discover that you forgot to hit the mute button. Sorry about that. Banners. They're a thing. Arthur Dent acceptable tea? Good question. I can picture Arthur Dent in the bar, but I can't picture him with tea. Pretty sure he probably had his cuppa in his hand when he got approached by, whatever that guy's name was. It'll pop up in my head the moment the stream's over. Arthur Dent's Guide. And I've always wondered, I shouldn't say always, because I have forgotten, I suppose, I've always wondered why anybody bothered to try and save Arthur Dent. I assume it was because they felt he actually would have the answer that they were looking for to life, the universe, and everything. I guess they had the answer to life, the universe, and everything. They knew that was 42, but they were lost on the question. Your hangman buddy probably doesn't have any audio at the moment, I suspect. Let's see. Ah, there he is. A long word. Not used to that many. Sorry if you guys can't see it. I forgot that the color that writing is almost the same as the mat. Oh, I see. Dent-approved tea. Now I'm gonna have to go look that up. Have one just because. That's the other thing I thought was funny, was even given that period where I was very much into watching what some may call bad British comedy in television, and we did spend a lot of time giggling our heads off about Are You Being Served? And a few other Britishisms, I guess? British oddities. We never really did get ourselves stuck on having cups of tea. I guess that would be probably because I suspect my buddy didn't like herbal tea. That's not properly British. And yet, LDS people don't do caffeine. Which I find is a really bizarre irony, given that if one does their homework, they find that the LDS Church actually has a significantly large stake in Coca-Cola. Found that out because I found that out from research in the first place, and then reconfirmed because we have extended family who had also invested quite heavily in Coca-Cola and made some pretty decent coin back in their day. Bag 6. That's 6 or no? 6. Let's move this one, it's glaring horribly. I'm really curious what that question is. I'm wondering if it's befitting. Oh no, that's not it. Yeah, befitting. B-E-F-I-T-T-I-N-G. Befitting. Befit for. Interesting. Befitting of someone who actually knows what they're doing. Well, that wouldn't be me. Okay, so I'm going to set the ship aside just a little. Durmstrang, dude, you can hang out over there for a bit. Just so we can see everything. Alright. No. It has not aged well. It's still funny, but yeah, it has not aged well. That's the other thing I liked about things, quote-unquote, back then, is, and I still do enjoy, I mean, even Red Dwarf, you can say, to some extent, is of its time. Meaning that in some of these things, there's types of humor and jokes that we would not make today. Or it would really have to be the right environment to be able to get away with them. But then, I mean, what's the other one? You and Jail probably have to remind me. The one with the buckets. Or bouquet. That's another one that I know I've watched a whole ton of, but I was super tired. As in, over here, that one would come on late at night. One of our public broadcasting stations. We didn't get a whole ton of of UK stuff over here, like broadcast on cable or anything else, without paying, really expensive channels. So a lot of that would come out really late night on public broadcasting, which was partially government funded, particularly in the United States. And the channel I watched in particular came out in Spokane, Washington, in the Pacific time zone, which means that even stuff that was late night for them was 1 hour later night for me. Oh, that's cool. It's like a play hatch. You can put on and take off. Yes, thank you. Keeping up appearances, which title-wise is not something I'm very good at. Though it did make me wonder years later how much Keeping Up Appearances silliness was at all a takeoff of sort of smaller town UK life in a similar sort of way to, in Canada we had a comedy called Corner Gas, which is very much a send-up of, oops, I bumped the camera, sorry, which is very much a send-up of our small prairie towns, because they can get kind of insularly weird. My mother was from a small prairie town in Saskatchewan, and she said that, I think we said this before, but she said that the Corner Gas stuff was kind of like watching people from her town, because she could say who was like the various different characters. They weren't all that thick, but, I mean, that's the way a lot of people portray it. I mean, people who live in trailer parks are not dumb like the Trailer Park Boys, so, there's a bit of it's comedy. I am looking for the brown bit that starts this next section. I'm not seeing it. Where did I not put it to? There we are, finally. Okay, then the black with the clips. What's this one? Yes. I love a lot of that British stuff still. It's a style of humor that I quite like, because while it's definitely, it's got its own different take. Some UK humor is a mix of dry and very in your face. Other UK humor seems to be, to me, a modern continuation, in a good way, but a modern continuation of something much more close to the slapstick style of comedy or physical comedy that I grew up with. Huge fan of old comedy over here. I mean, yes, I am not quite half a century in age myself, but that said, I still enjoyed stuff from well before that. I mean, Carol Burnett, we had Sid Caesar's Comedy Hour, Your Show shows. What else do we have? Dick Van Dyke Show. Not as big a fan of Mary Tyler Moore, but did see an awful lot of that. And so I quite liked the UK comedy, because it seems like some of that is continuing, even the stuff that's not new. The UK comedy didn't have to get as old as some of the stuff that I watched a lot of for me to still enjoy it in the same vein. Okay, there it is, sandwich. So that's part of why I enjoyed a bunch of that stuff. And one of the things I also liked is there was a time where both sides of the pond, so to speak, seemed to have comedy that gets away with saying things that wouldn't exactly be kosher, I guess, on the opposite side of the ocean. There's clips here, just kind of downwards. Yep, maybe. I'm hoping that'll explain itself at some point. It does settle in. Oh, and then the front clips on. Wow, that's a weird way of supporting things. It's a very, I'll show you. It turned out to be a very strange angle. So we just clipped in down here, and it rests up against there, and then the clips that are on that piece angles it this way to have the front snap in, which I don't even know what it's on. Oh, it's a rotating, okay, that's a Technic pin inside. It's a bit of an odd angle, but I like that they use that. It's a very neat technique. Haha, you only remember reading Rainbow. Yes, and welcome on in, by the way. Pleased to meet you. welcome in, Skycast. As I ask all new people, if you're willing, could you please tell me what caught your attention and what you enjoy about the subject matter that caught your attention? So, for example, was the thumbnail absolutely not ugly for a change? Or could it be, I don't know, there's a million other things. I mean, I ramble about all sorts of stuff. Who knows how long you've been listening before you chose to say hello. Yeah, I mean, reading Rainbow, we've joked about this a few times. I am, because I've now figured out that I'm neurodivergent, one of the things I'm very susceptible to, like a lot of people, is being able to have earworm multi-track stuff going on, so I do not get silence in my head. There's times I ask for silence in the world, just, please stop playing music or whatever, because I have a soundtrack I cannot shut off in my head. And sometimes that crisscross gets to be too much, so it's like an auditory noise, really. Cacophony? No, I'm not all about $5 words today, although sometimes they fit the bill. Looking for one more of these. There's 3 of them in that picture. This one? Yeah, okay. Just kicked out of a raid. Oh, well, that's cool. Thank you. I appreciate that you chose me. Just giving you the heads up then. As you can see in the top corner, I'm part of the Streamcraft 73 community. What we normally, what we normally are known for is we are patrons of a gentleman by the name of Dadcraft 73, for whom I think I have a button sewn under somewhere. There we go. That's just, I'll give you my who is in just a moment. But we're known for being part of that. And initially, we all got together due to a shared interest in Minecraft. So I often stream Minecraft the rest of the week, Tuesday through Friday. And Monday is my lazy Lego Monday, which is the break slot. But you're more than welcome to drop in, drop out any day that something appeals to you. So, all are welcome here. We insist on being family friendly, and yeah, I guess that's about the size of it. So my bio is this one. As a Canuck, we every once in a while I say things a little bit funny, apparently. The aboot thing is, to me, less of a Canadianism and more of an I don't know bit. I would have expected that people would say that about the UK people more so than the Canadians, but we get that. Out west in Canada, I'm in Alberta. Out west, we do not say A nearly as much as people think we do. However, if you ask me about Mike from Canmore, I will say no, but I am in the same province as Canmore. It's about somewhere between an hour and a half west of me. So yes, I do not know Mike from Canmore. Actually, honestly, that could even be a Canadian joke in itself, now that I think about it, because when I think of where I know the Mike from Canmore character from is a comedy show called Air Farce. Yeah, that's fine. That's totally cool. And I mean, I shouldn't be making assumptions of where people are from. I've had surprises before. So, good surprises always, but surprises before. For example, given the fact that for me, just past noon, people on the UK side of the Atlantic Ocean will be hitting approximately, I'm guessing, about 7 p.m. or shortly thereafter. And, oh, I rolled too far forward. Okay. And so for them, I often am surprised that they bother to stick around, because by 7 p.m., a lot of people in North America, if there is anything, they're either out at events or activities, or, like your kids have, say, martial arts or swimming or something, or it's the family evening post school and dinner. Yeah. I mean, depending on the UK household style, some of them will actually follow a different format of meal times. But, so it always surprises me that they're still here. Just shortly after 7. Okay, cool. The one that always throws me is that sometimes Windows is wrong, because I don't know, maybe it's Silicon Valley's arrogance, who knows? Redmond? No, Redmond in that case, I guess. Redmond, Washington. But Windows sometimes doesn't get their time zones right in terms of when people switch daylight savings. They're very well versed in the North American daylight savings switches, but when it comes to dealing with the European ones, they're a little out to lunch. So British summertime is a bit awkward. Now, next question though. Okay, well, a couple of them actually, Jay. What did you choose to have today? Because inquiring minds want to know, especially when I skip my breakfast bar. But also, what do you call it? Because there's so many people call things differently. When I was referring to some people following a different schedule, online actually, I still know a few people who will serve both tea and supper as completely different meals in the day. 1, 2. And so tea could be a little too early for me, but you know, as a parent, I would understand when I hear about the ones that serve tea earlier as a meal, so that it's like kids' evening meal hour, I guess. Just waiting for snow. You can have some of ours. Definitely, you can have some of ours, Bob. If you hadn't heard, 5 to 6 inches overnight. Breakfast, then lunch, then dinner. Okay. I'm actually looking forward to doing more meals like that in our house. Thankfully, my kids are growing into being able to have mixed meals. I think it could be partly the scouting influence. Not me personally, but... Uh-oh, what's on the inside? Okay. But in scouting, of course, nobody wants to dirty any more dishes than absolutely necessary when you go to camp. So it could be that. I'm not entirely sure. Did that... Feels like that should swing out further, but it doesn't. I want it to be on the side, overlooking Garvey face. So I think we got there, but it feels too close. Find out later what I did incorrectly, because it... Yeah, it just feels like something's off. Anyway, so we're starting to have more mixed meals, and I'm glad for that, because for a long time they were separate meal people, as in like they would poke at their dinner and not want to eat, say, spaghetti with meat sauce or something, because it was on the noodles. And now, Fantastic Dog Fox was good with that. You know, he'd make them separate. And I, for a while, was pushing back, saying, oh, for Pete's sake, just put it on like you would for anything else. But I mean, we have to cook it separate anyways. So it was really one of those no skin off his nose. And frankly, he's cooking, not me. So I did not necessarily have proper right, I guess, maybe permission. In my head, I didn't have permission to go that way, like to argue about it. Some parents do, in my mind, go overboard, and we see that at camp, as in the ones that go, ew, my mom would never make me eat that. Well, tough luck, it's what camp food is. Sometimes it's what the rest of the group had voted on as a whole, and you're kind of stuck with it. Other times it's just that they're, for right or wrong reasons, fussy about how it's cooked, as in like the extent to which it's cooked. We had one kid who, for camp, effectively became a vegetarian, even though they weren't intending to be. But it's because their house, when they served pork and meat products, they cooked them to, I guess, healthy-ish, as in healthy at home, but certainly not reliably healthy out at camp. And so we couldn't let it stop at that, and they wouldn't touch it if it was any more well done. So they effectively became vegetarian, and so we ended up having to start packing extra snacks because that kid wouldn't, would come back and be like, I'm hungry. Well, yeah, because she didn't want to eat the protein part. Anyway, that's interesting. So one has pasta bolognese, the other one has spaghetti carbonara. So if I was to take the UK food dress code memo for the day, apparently if you're emulating the Brits of today that are in our stream, you're going to be having yourself a pasta dish, most likely with some sort of spaghetti-esque noodle. Because that seems to be the meal of the day. Precisely, Mama Bear. They're making me totally hungry. However, I will say, one of the things that I find mildly funny in my internet travels and a little bit of real life travels, and even spelunking through the UK import stores, just how many households, unfortunately, I don't know how it started, but some it's how it started, some it's how they like it now, have a huge reliance on tinned goods or canned goods. Everything from, dare I say it, tinned beans through to like, what do you call them? SpaghettiOs, I guess. Okay, I think this was supposed to be mirrored. Yeah, I rolled back, not forward. What a fool. Okay, well, it is supposed to be mirrored. That's okay. I can do that. We know I can do that. So yeah, I love to joke along with one of the people in Dadcraft's community who loves his spaghetti hoops, which in North America we call SpaghettiOs. And he eats them with all sorts of stuff that to me would be a bizarre combination, but sure. But he eats far more beans than most people I know on the planet, including other people on both sides of the ocean. And now I can't get it out of my head because the Heinz company is very, very international, and they're well known for their tinned beans. People take them all over places, camping goods or rations or whatever. And apparently, from what I understand, in countries that have North Americans and or people from the Isles, British Isles and stuff, as expats, apparently Heinz beans products are quite the thing. There was a rumor at one point that, I don't remember which Olympics it was, but there was one where beans on toast was something that the Brits had asked for. So their country shipped them a whole ton of beans to be eaten at the Olympics. And some of the athletes who weren't into that still asked for their share, except as tins, because it was a barter product that they could use to get cool souvenirs from this other country and from other athletes attending, because I guess they just didn't want to eat their beans, but they were able to barter these Heinz beans. I wish it was like that. Unfortunately, at Scout Camp, nobody wants beans on the menu. Not just because of sharing tents with people. I mean, that would be miserable in itself. But also because of the fact that nothing they eat ever goes with beans. We've tried. We had a UK Scouter at one point who was trying to get them to eat beans on toast. That didn't go over very well. And there was something else, I can't remember what it was they were trying. But yeah. And so the things unfortunately got the nickname for us is they're now the Heinz beans. Just because our Scouts love alliteration. 1/4 the hour? Yes. Yes. Although, I mean, given that during some of the wars people have had, there's been some pretty funky ration choices. There are people I know that because they had to eat Spam growing up, which is a tinned jellied ham version of sorts, I guess, that they will not touch the stuff now, ever. Like, you cannot make them eat it. Which is too bad, because they miss out on some pretty cool dishes that were invented afterwards, as far as I understand. If that's something they like, go for it. I'm actually rather surprised sometimes to learn how many different varieties there are in foods like that. I mean, like the commercial products, but also how people like to take them. Like, does he have beans on toast just straight? Does he add anything extra to it? I mean, I know someone who liberally peppers their toast with like ground black pepper. I know someone who insists on, if they're going to do beans on toast, they insist on putting an egg beneath it. There's many, many ways to do that sort of thing. To me, it's a bunch of that, actually, because I didn't have to deal with, excuse me, military excuse me, military event rations. To me, that became college food because it was quick, easy, low prep, inexpensive.
Ads are starting. Dylan will continue the conversation after the ads are over. Thank you for supporting the stream.
Well, you know, Metal, I agree with you. Basically the thing in my house, the reason I like spam, as weird as it is, not just from bad jokes and UKisms and stuff, because yes, that had something to do with it. But also, the reason I like it actually is the brand name spam is far too expensive, but at least up here you're able to get two other varieties. One called Prem, P-R-E-M, another one called Click, K-L-I-K. And the major difference between them, aside from price point, sorry, lost the vector bit. But aside from price point, is that they have varying amounts of jelly. And here's the thing, that's the part I don't like, is actually the jelly on a jellied ham. So, you can buy a canned jellied pressed ham, basically. It's a flaked ham, like pork ham, that's been ground again, which sounds really gross, actually, till it's kind of like a paste. But then they press it into the mold for the canister, or sometimes into the canister itself. And any gaps are filled with a clear jelly, which I laugh because some brands actually have the jelly be vegan, as in like a vegetable base, when the rest of the product isn't, so I sort of wonder why bother. But, so they're different price points. Some of them are saltier than others, and some of them don't hold up well. What I mean by that is they don't hold together very well. I don't think they still have it on display at the moment, but our military museum used to have it's supposed to look like a paper lunch bag, but I think it might have been some alternative material, cloth or something or other, that had a ration issue in the bag, like just with the original tins and stuff. And so you get a rough idea just how old things like Spam really are. But if you're into checking out foods from those eras without necessarily having a horrible experience yourself by tasting it, there's a couple of YouTube channels I'd recommend. One for a lady who I believe unfortunately has now passed, but she was doing tons and tons of like comfort food stuff. Her whole channel was about the North American making things last during the Depression era. And so she still cooks like that because, I mean, 99% of our grandmas did for eons just because they realized how inexpensive it was. And so that's a great one. Another one is a channel called Tasting History with Max Miller. And he periodically does history recipes from post-World War II era, or sometimes before that. He likes to do some ancient stuff, and he replicates it with as close as you can get today with the ingredients that they would have. And he tells you about the history, what he finds in the books, and so like it's actually well researched. And so he's done a few things like that. Like they had was it UK World War II mock banana sandwich, because of course transporting things like bananas was a really low priority when you were more worried about air raids. So yeah, but so recipes came out of stuff like that, or when people turned to bananas because for a while it was a relatively easy thing to get early on. At least in the US it was even easier because of course a lot of it was just shipped overland, which had nothing to do with the war. And that was a good way for people to be able to get the sweetness of sugars without having to worry about, the fact that sugar was commandeered for the war, which I find kind of interesting. But given the number of actual issued ration sets that have been tasted since, where, yeah, they really didn't have much for sweetness in them at all. But back on the ham front, ham and spam front, one of the post-war elements that became popular, I believe was invented in Hawaii. I may need to be corrected on that point. But it's, I think it's called musubi. And it's one of those ones that has a slice of spam, or your favorite similar thing, that's been fried. And I find spam being one of those things that actually survives a non-stick pan fairly well, but if you're not into non-stick pans, just a very light touch of oils or something to make it not stick. And then stuck on a block of rice, depending on what your personal tastes are. Sushi rice is a good one here. And then, oops, 1, 2, I'm trying to do this while I'm talking. It's really odd to use one of these bars because it doesn't lock in very well. I guess it's not supposed to. Oh, I see, it goes through the cross-shake section. Aha. That'll lock itself in. But then, so it goes on top of a block about the size of a deck of cards, usually double thick. Like double thick the deck of cards of like rice, sushi rice. And then wrapped with one of the strips of seaweed, often referred to as nori. And they were fairly easy and inexpensive to get. And you can get them in like fast food food trucks and stuff now. But it's become a bit of a fancy thing, which is really street food. Total cheapo and street food. But most people don't want to, like myself, don't want to put in the effort to make it. So if somebody else is going to do it, they can make it all day long and I'll be paying for it. I don't remember spam fritters. We didn't do that one. I think my dad was actually against it, probably because he grew up eating it because his parents ate it. So later years, my grandmother, his mother, had said that she doesn't like the stuff anymore. She had to cook with it for so many years, she hated it. But she was quite creative with it. Hotel industry gal who wanted to figure out something else to do with those things. But apparently growing up, my dad had to eat a whole ton of it because he's was born in 46, so the leading edge of the baby boom generation, which means then, of course, that people were still in the mode. And I'm trying to look at this. Which way is this going? Oh, I put them on. Duh. Brainiac, Dylan, if you're going to put things on in the wrong order, you're not going to follow your own instructions properly. That's a very odd piece, but sure. But anyway, so he didn't like Spam for years, but he would put basically one of the, I wouldn't say cheap, but the ham steaks that are not actually a slice of real ham. It's a slice of one of those compressed hams. I think those are an abomination, but they're great when you don't want to deal with ham bone or you have somebody who's got a textural dislike. But he would put a chunk of a ham steak on what he called a smashed egg sandwich. Basically, it was a fried egg that as soon as it sets up so it's going to become a dippy egg, then you poke into it so the yolk goes all over and you finish the fry. But he would make smashed egg sandwiches. As an adult, I hate them. I never will make them again. But, as a kid, we had them a lot. But eventually, I can't remember what the reasoning was, but eventually at some point, somebody turned him on to doing that instead of with a ham steak slice, doing it with a spam, prem, click, whatever. They're your tinned meat style. And that's what he was doing for years. And then something at some point in the last 5 or 6 years just switched and he went back again. And swears he never did it. But, I mean, not surprised. He's getting to be of an age where his memory appears to be not all it used to be. Which, there's a phase I hope he does not remember and try to go back to. Growing up, this guy he's a bit of a health nut in weird ways. As in, like, doing the math, 46, oh god, my brain doesn't want to work today. Nearly 80, I suppose. And he still works out in the gym, which I find funny. He's not necessarily one of those old guys that, little scrawny old guys we often picture in the gym who look like they'd be better off on a bicycle, sort of body shape. No, he actually has a half-decent shape. The point is, to that he also went through a phase then, of course, where he did the protein powder shake thing, which is great. But, as a parent, therefore I did. Therefore we all did. Had no choice because we didn't have it as shakes. He put it in everything. There might have been a time he could do one-arm push-ups like Jack Nuts, but not quite scrawny like that either. Like, he actually has some half-decent pipes. So, like the stereotype, he still has a triangle back, and weirdly, non-moob pecs. That just sounds weird, but yeah. Like, so for certain reasons, one can sort of say, wow, I'm impressed, you know, respect. Just because he's my dad and all the other experiences, no, but that's just the way life goes. But yeah, so suffice to say, he put it in everything. So if you wanted scrambled eggs in the morning, and they came out a little dry, well, yeah, Dad had put vanilla protein powder in your scrambled eggs. Of course, coming up in that age group, the late 40s, early 50s and stuff like that, some houses in North America were affluent and some were not. His was one of the more not ones. So he occasionally demonstrated a mindset of waste not, want not, which can be good in some respects. But as a magician, we had doves in our house. The white doves. They lay eggs. You cannot, basically, you cannot hide the flavor of an egg from essentially a pigeon cousin. Proper vanilla in my scrambled eggs isn't too bad. I've done that on St. Patty's Day, because if you put vanilla, or even in some cases a touch of soy, in like soy sauce in your eggs, it will actually turn them slightly green. I've missed something here because, oh yes, crossbar. I did miss something. Big piece, actually. Uh-oh. Tore it apart. What do we got? This piece. Okay, let's put that in this way, and then we'll snap the forks back together. So it tastes okay. It's not great, but yeah, don't eat dove eggs. Don't eat your local pigeon's eggs. They're gross. They're disgusting. Even if you try to mix them with a chicken egg, it's still unpalatably nasty. He's the only guy I know that will use a non-stick pan. Actually, not the only guy, but one of the few people on the planet I know that will use a non-stick pan, spray it with the faux oil cooking spray, and then still manage to burn the cooking spray, but go ahead and make their scrambled eggs anyways. For the family. So, yeah, dude could not cook. So, I mean, there are days that I wonder if he married my mom because she could cook. Even though she wasn't a spectacular cook, she was leagues better than him. So, who knows? Who knows? But yeah, so we had protein powder in everything. So, that was a phase that I really hope he doesn't go back to. Or at least if he does go back to it, this time around he'll remember that he has to add extra liquid to compensate when you put it in things. Many of you have heard of the Canadian invented dessert known as a Nanaimo bar. Nanaimo bars are actually pretty tasty. Shush. Sorry. I'm using an app now called Tick Tick to remind me about stuff, and I forgot that I can't snooze it the same way I remind everything else. So thankfully it's just a calendar appointment. We may have a few things pop in. I don't think I've got any other ones in this half hour, but I might have some in the next hour, which I should be hopefully finished by. Anyway, where's I going with this? Oh, yes. So, spam and, yeah, compensation. So, I've heard of Nanaimo bars. Well, Nanaimo bars are fine as long as, are fine to hide these sorts of things in, as long as you remember to add the extra water. Well, yeah, he doesn't, or didn't, I guess back then, for the pudding mix layer, the sort of a yellow, sweet, very, very sweet layer. The bottom's like a chocolate fudgy, I was going to say fudgy brownie, but no, it's like a fudge bar, I suppose. I don't really know how else to explain it. It's, yeah, it's its own thing. If you haven't had an Nanaimo bar, if you're ever traveling or see one on imports, particularly if someone's going to make them from scratch, those are worth trying, just for the experience, but I think it's definitely one of my favorite items. Anyhow, he would make these Nanaimo bars at home and put the mix in and not add extra water. So this thing came out like dry, crumbly, and pasty, and tasted like whatever stuff he'd had in there. One of the other health kicks apparently just 1 ounce, which is supposedly 18 whole almonds. 1 ounce of almonds is supposed to help lower your cholesterol by a significant amount if you eat them. If you eat 1 ounce of almonds daily. Don't tell him that. He put it in absolutely everything again, like that, and so, for a very brief period, both. But my parents are not coffee drinkers. They have a small machine for when my brother visits, and they used to have a machine for when company visited before that. But yeah, they've been through now, I think, 2 or 3 coffee grinders because he puts almonds in it. It's not a spice grinder. My mom has one that's actually designated as a spice grinder separately. It's labeled to high heaven so that he doesn't put his almonds in there. Stuff. And every once in a while, he'll surprise me with something I'd forgotten he remembers, if that makes any sense. It's not just because people are old. It's, while in North America, people were having Woodstock, summer of 69, I suppose people say. While we were doing that, he was over in the UK. I'm not sure what part of the country working. So he's picked up some interests in food that over here are a little bit odd. It's pretty normal overseas, but over here it's considered a bit odd. Such as he still will occasionally do mayonnaise with his French fries. That's more of a European thing as opposed to a UK thing per se, but you do see it in both places. He's all about the vinegars on his French fries, aka chips overseas. He's the one that introduced me to malt vinegar actually, and the joy of of course I had to miss one. I'm talking too much. And the joy of having deep fried fish wrapped in a piece of newsprint. Oddly enough, the paper from the newsprint in the way that it absorbs oils is really, really quite neat. And I did that when we were in Ireland. We had some fresh fish done that way, and the kids were fairly impressed. My father-in-law was having a blast because he lives over there, but his wife is on a very big health kick. So not weird like my dad's health kick, but just a different take on it. And therefore, her health kick and my father-in-law's health kick don't necessarily coincide well. So he'll do, fish with us. And for her, the same amount of fish that'd be one person's portion commercially. For her, it would be like a week. I find mayo itself a little bit too, what do you call it? Eggy. I'm not a mayo fan. That said, one of the fake alternatives to mayo, once again, supposedly healthier back in the day, although that's when they didn't necessarily say 30,000 chemicals was going to kill you, is we use Miracle Whip, and most people I know hate it, but I like that better than mayo in some situations because I find, as I said, mayo is eggy, but also the Miracle Whip is, I'm not sure quite how to put it. Miracle Whip has a tang to it that I like. So on French fries, I don't do it at my house because my kids think I'm utterly weird, and Fox probably would think I'm weird too. But when I'm out at camp, I know that there's at least a couple other, one adult and another older youth that would actually eat the same thing happily. Not just because it's there, but because they actually like that sort of food. And they usually are the ones that request that we buy the Miracle Whip. So hey, if they're going to have it at camp, I'm all for it. The other advantage to it is, even though a product like Miracle Whip is supposed to be refrigerated, it is, and you really should. But on the bright side, and in a camping scenario, if somebody's dumb and accidentally leaves it out on the counter for a few hours, it's not near instantly off, as a jar of proper mayonnaise would be because of the egg content. watching the clock here, and we have about 20-ish minutes left, I could think. Technically it says 25. The way I ramble, that's the same thing. Or where my squirrel. Now I'm just trying to get this one in. The technical pins are being a bit fussy. Did it line up on everything? There. That part's actually well and truly locked in. I can't necessarily pick the whole thing up by it, but I can definitely tip it. That's locked in nicely. The thing I find funny though about my dad's time overseas is some habits he'll make use of sometimes, and other times he won't. So, particularly in his later years, he's losing his filter. That's part of how I think, or how my family thinks he might be starting to go. His mom did too, and some of it's a propriety filter. People are nice, or you're being something mean just because you're telling it like you see it, and like you see it can be a little blunt sometimes. But as far as habits with food go, some, like in North America, as everybody's aware, we always pick up our hamburgers, or pizza. It's a handheld food. That's what we do over here. In some parts of Europe and parts of the UK, you will see people eating the handheld burger with a knife and fork. I have no problem with that. I mean, if you want to, go for it, sure. But it's funny because when it's not like that over here, then I get days where my dad will be put out and grouchy about the fact that he doesn't have a knife and fork for his burger. And then there's other days where you put out the knife and fork and he'll come back with, well, I don't know why you put these out. They're just going to get dirty. Nobody's going to use them. So, you never know with people like that. Oh, they haven't done the other side yet. Okay. Stick this one back for now. Still on the same side. We do have... Aha! It will lean. Yay! Okay. Do a straight section. Smooth. Centered? Yeah, centered. So, it was kind of funny because some of the stuff that my high school buddy and I got into watching of old UK cheesy comedy was amusing because when my father got into the same topic, he was like interested, and he'd watch the material. Thankfully, he wouldn't watch it with us. That was one of the kiboshes we said. Is like, yeah, no, I don't care if you're home or not, or it's an evening. Like, no, you're not hanging out with us. That's just stupid. But he would watch it after hours by himself. And when I asked him about it, he's like, well, I never saw it the first time around. And apparently when he was overseas, he had seen, for whatever his reasons were, I got the impression it was some sort of impression of, once again, health. Although, that's his excuse now. It's pretty likely it was probably just a financial thing. That he did not end up purchasing a television license when he was over there. So a lot of the stuff that people talk about that were sort of 60s UK television shows, he never saw the first time around. And so when somebody would bring to his attention that they enjoyed something that he had missed out on, suddenly he's into it. He's got to catch up. He's got to know everything. He's got to be on top of things. So yeah, it was really kind of amusing at times to think on it now about what he would obsess on because he missed it the first time around. We didn't miss out on the music front. That's one of those things that I am still very much into, is ancient by today's standards UK music, or let me say the first British invasion. Actually, I really didn't like the invasion music as much as the stuff that those groups had often put out before they invaded North America. I think maybe part of it is, honestly, when you think about it, why do people like a lot of things? And what I mean by that is, sometimes people want music or whatever we read, watch, listen to. It's like a spice for a different sense, right? We talk about salt, sweet, acid, heat, and umami. Acid, heat. Yeah, I think I missed one, but anyway. Sour, I think is the one I missed, but I think that's related to the acid side. But we talk about the flavors there. We talk about colors and light for visual. There's sensory touch elements, right? So why not have things like music being an equivalency for your ears? I'll get back to Bob's comment about burgers, because I did have something to say about that. Anyway, so like, rather than doing that, so music would be a spice for the ears, in essence. That's just where I'm going with that. There was a point to that train of thought. Oh, yes. So it's either that or, in my mind, the other option is escapism. And part of the reason I like the foreign stuff, for the most part, is a bit of an escapism in the anywhere but here source. So if you have people who turn on the radio, and most frequently you'll find stuff that's over here, you find stuff that's North American. You know, I mean, other parts of the planet you may as well too, because it seems to be a bit of an international thing. You know, Taylor Swift can create an earthquake anywhere she pleases. I have missed, it's wanting me to open another bag, but my concern is I'm missing the use of a part that normally is not left over, especially one like this. So I'm not sure what I did with that. 15 minutes left, and here I am backtracking. It's not good news. Not there, not there. Pursuant to Bob's comment about burgers, that is precisely why I tend to eat my burgers, as some people would say, upside down. Because the way people cut the buns, the bottom section is always super thin, and the top section is always nice and fluffy thick. So if I'm going to have a very messy burger, maybe lots of grease or lots of moisture, like tomato slices or mayonnaise or whatever, I put a lot of that towards the top. Why am I not seeing this piece? No, not there. I'm really hoping it's not all the way back at the beginning of the bag. It might be. Right, I'm going. No. Okay, there's the front pieces. Oh. Yeah, that's what I did. That's what I did. Interesting. Like, how did I miss that? But clearly I did, because it shouldn't have come apart that easily. And that bit's not locked in. Let's get it out. I said I can mirror this, and I promptly bungled it. This one goes with this one. Inside. I'm sure it would come to a bit of a shock for myself when I got to the next section that needs those pins and don't have them installed. But on the burger thing, yeah, that's why I eat it upside down. It's because I put a lot of the messy stuff towards the thick top of the burger, and then flip it over and eat it that way. It doesn't tend to drip down as badly or as much. Aha! I just had another aha. I didn't realize some of the pins underneath where that section goes on are actually hinged in a forward back motion. So it's not as weird to get it in there as I thought. Okay. Anyway, that makes more sense. Not entirely confused that I missed this one. That could be spare. I've had spares of those before. Let's see, beginning of the bag. How far back? Oh boy. That is a long ways back. Okay. So I'm looking for a 1x4 skinny 1x4 stick. That's these little gray boxes. There. Spend all day doing this because we can really move on. But I missed one on those. Does not appear so. Okay. Maybe it's just extra for that? I don't know. It does not seem to be structurally compromising things. I've missed it. It's going to look odd at some point. Maybe I do have a spare. Okay, let's get through this part and then grab it to the next bag and see how far we can get. Yeah. How much do I care? I found it, and I'm trying to decide how much I care. I will know, right? I know. Okay, one of the, let's see if I can do this. If not, I'll regret that I've taken this off. That part off. Let's move better. Up. No, you're locked in. Come on. Pull apart, please. I now have a bad angle on this. This is not good. Okay, well, I'll take that apart too. Sure. Rudder's coming off whether it likes it or not. Dylan is weird. Come on. Oops. It breaks things. Truth is, I missed it on the bottom of this upper deck section, and for stability purposes, I want it in there. I might have to disassemble later. Great. Okay. Can I get it past? I don't think I can get it past. Come on, you. 1, 2. This is why they don't have you build the rudder there. You need to get it in. Oh, yeah, that really does lock in, doesn't it? Dang it. At least I don't have to reassemble in a big way. Some of us were there when Dadcraft was working on a Weebricks project that was sent to him by our fine friend Yellow. And his Weebricks project, unfortunately, did not want to cooperate and stay together. So when that was the case, Dadcraft unfortunately had to end one of his... Oops. Breaking it all over the place. End one of his streams to do some rebuild because parts of the Weebricks just did not hold the way they should. There we go. And so he had to reassemble, which is different from me being a bullheaded goofball and insisting on putting a piece in even though I know it's deeper in the unit. Okay, so challenge to self. Let's see, this bit I think goes on here. That bit's from the bottom one. This way. Oh, nope, there's something in between. This bit. Okay. This is part of why I don't do mocks. Because I put things on upside down and forget where they all go. That one is up here. And off you go. Uh-oh, I felt something else break under my finger. Yep, I heard it too. Yay, Dylan. Dylan breaks things? Oh, just the food fell off. That's not harmful. Okay, can I reassemble? So this section 2, it's upside down, which means this one goes on. Okay. We're having the same problem with the Iron Giant you made. His legs had a gap that was pinned together too. Yes, exactly. Things like that happen, and we go, why? Why, designer, why? And then sometimes, every once in a while, there's nobody to yell at but ourselves because the designer got it right and we bungled it, or it actually really was a strange choice. Okay, I think that one. That looks reasonable. Reasonable enough I'm going to leave it, even if it's wrong. Okay, these go on the sides. Speed rebuilds! No, that's fine. That's fine. You have appointments that are important. Fantastic Show at Fox is finally getting to see a specialist about his shoulder that has been really uncooperative since he dislocated it. It's the second time he's dislocated this particular shoulder. And the first time we did it, we had a dog Oops, I think it's moved backwards. We had a dog that got all excited in winter weather and decided that they were going to go hightailing it down our icy sidewalk with Fantastic Sherlock Fox in tow. And so he went down pretty hard and dislocated, and then the fox rolled over and put it back in. Which generally you're not supposed to do, but apparently this first time was an accident that he put it back in. It was not supposed to happen that way. Then the second time, he was more aware that he did it. We were hiking and he decided to scout ahead. Long story made short, there was a slippery section and he was like crossing a log, as I understand it, to as part of this whole scout ahead to see. The log was over a creek and the log was damp, and so he slipped and got stuck in the iron cross position, which his body is not really practiced at, trained for, etc. So the shoulder popped. And then what did he do as he came down, rather than coming out going, yeah, I have a dislocated shoulder, we need to go home, he actually went and put his shoulder back in. The guy to pieces. But sometimes I think he's a little bit silly. So apparently he got told, in quotes, that he did it right, like as in how it was done. It's just that he shouldn't have done it. The problem is if you don't do it fast enough, as our fine paramedic Ross friend will tell you, sometimes the muscles around it will stiffen up, and then that makes it putting it back in far more painful and far more difficult. So it's just never behaved right since the second thing. He's been seeing physio for years over this. So we'd love to try and see, you know, if they can nail down what's been done. There's several tears and stuff that just aren't healing and so on. So, yeah. Okay, I think I got this part back, so let's get to the next bag in the last 5 minutes to see what sort of dip we can make. And then I'll just put everything away and we can pick up again next week. Tomorrow, yes, because I gotta show this weird minifigure. Tomorrow, because I will be back, but we will not be doing Lego. Tomorrow is going to be back to Minecraft. We have more of our dreadful flying glove that we're working on. So it's a big wool statue of the Beatles' Yellow Submarine movie's dreadful flying glove that belongs to the Blue Meanies. It still looks like a nightmare. You know, most of my strange sculptures like that do look like nightmares. Hey, James! Wow. Let's see, what time is it over there? Not bad. They're starting their day in Sydney time zone, I think. So it's nearly 7 a.m., I guess. Or it's back 7. Okay, so I want to show you this minifig. But anyways, tomorrow we'll be back dealing with the dreadful flying glove. It's being made out of wool and assorted other random stuff. It still looks like a bit of a nightmare, but I have a lot of work to do on it because I'm not good at organic shapes. And this is one that I don't think, whether I'd done it had practiced it in creative or not, still don't think I would have been 100% happy with. As we joked about earlier, when am I ever? Okay, so we've got this one as minifig I wanted to show you because it's specifically strange. Not bad. Not bad at all. So nobody was here, according to Animator. They are the first person here. Hello to you too. I find distractor, derailer, and earworm person. Okay, so this is the lady who is in charge of the Beauxbatons French School of Magic. She's half giant, so she is taller than your average character, but she has two different faces. So she's got a sort of semi-smiley one, like this one, and then on the back side, a look of concern, which really is about as far as she ever got. She never really got upset or angry or whatever. It's just a look of concern. I've got one with her before where she's actually at the Yule Ball Christmas, so I'm going to give this one the concern look just because the other face is the same. But this one's unique in that we've got the back printing on there. You can start to see there's 3 very visible slots. compared to a minifigure, there's just the two. So this is the only one I've got that has the odd extended legs, which is kind of a bizarre thing because, I mean, they're articulate legs, as in you can bend them. I don't remember ever in the movies seeing the character dressed in anything other than a dress or skirt. And of course, in the Yule Ball, it would be a fancy gown. So once again, it's a skirt, so they gave him the molded one-piece sort of skirt slope. But this one, they bothered to give it legs, and they're strange legs to boot. They're also taller than the Hagrid characters, which I find kind of interesting. Give me a quick sec. Here's Hagrid. There we go. So this particular Hagrid, you can see he's taller than a minifigure, right? But I must have smacked the camera because everything's all cockeyed. There we go, close enough. Probably because it's close to the end of the stream and I bumped everything when I rolled back. Anyhow's it. So he's taller. Actually, you know what I'm going to do? Slide this over. Slide this over. We'll start in the actual work on bag 6 the next time. I really wanted to get to this minifigure. So I'm going to pull up... There. Comparison purposes, just squaring everybody off. So you've got... There's your regular minifigure. There's your Hagrid figure. Oops, well, more or less. We need two, just so that you can see the difference. Okay, so there we've got Hagrid and the other minifigure, and he's taller. Then you throw Madame Maxine in there, and she's actually slightly taller than Hagrid. Not by much, but just a little bit, because he's rolling kind of funny. Though, when they did it in the films, although Robbie Coltrane had, prosthetics and stuff, and he had a body double that was actually taller, etc., etc. The Madame Maxine in the films, because of the way that they did with the legging and stuff, she was actually notably taller than Hagrid. And he's like seeing her about chest height-ish. And he's half giant as well, just opposite side of the family, I think, something like that. So it's very, very different. Yeah, she's not much taller than Hagrid. It's possible, actually, that I could be wrong on the heights. Let me just double check. Not that one. 3D printer for the win. These things are amazing. I'm sorry that it happens to be blue with everything else being blue-green. I just haven't got around to putting a white paint on the other one. This one we printed in 2 colors. The other one we printed in 1, and I've decided to keep it and paint it, but I just haven't got around to it. Those never-ending projects, right? Okay, so I'm going to square off with the other one, so you guys can see fairly. All right. And I'm holding it flat up against the first one. You can see the numbers on top of that. So we're going to go with Hagrid is approximately, it's not perfect, but he's approximately, a straight piece of Lego, sure. He is approximately 5.5 tall. Okay? And that's also because I could have had it at an angle. Whereas Madame Maxine herself is, again, so she's 5.5 tall. So in this case, they're about the same height. Which makes me wonder if at some point we're going to get a Hagrid character with similar legs. I don't know. I would not be surprised Lego does that sort of thing. Which would mean then rather than having the big cloak wide, they would do it narrower, printed as narrower. And that, because they seem to do that with the characters these days, give them shape and stuff in the printing. And then just give him the weird wide legs. But this particular one is a match on, it's got snap-in, non-articulate legs. Kind of weird face. I do have another one that's more articulate, but it's in a box. So we can pull that out next week and do another recheck. See if all Hagrids are like that. But yeah, so they're about 5.5 tall, whereas your generic minifig, in this case, once again, this one is only approximately, I know he's tipping kind of weird, which is difficult. He's approximately 4.5 tall, so we've got a whole stud height difference. Next week I'll measure them better. Probably same concept, but I'll have a little plate that we can just like snap them onto and stuff like that, so we can, give them all their little like happy number mugshots. That'd be kind of fun. Yeah, so there's our figures for the day. We're stopping at the top of the hour because we still have some reasonable amount of stuff to do. I believe, I can't remember whether this has 9 bags or 10 bags in it, so we have a good amount left to go through for next week. So this is where we're at so far. I'm just going to shove this crazy pile up to the side. Beep, 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 beep. Oh, there we go. Missed one. Beep, beep. Okay. And I'm showing stuff I shouldn't because I bonked my head on the camera. Smart. Okay. So we're really coming together compared to where we left off last week. I like the way this back deck is coming together. The tip is a bit strange. There. I could have seen it at the bow, but they've got it at the stern. So that's a bit of an odd one because I would have thought a flat deck to stand on. I don't know. Whatever. It's fiction. You can do what you want in fiction. So we've got a lovely little set inside. They still have not changed anything there, so it's probably some sort of chair for tall figures. But I mean, because they have no articulation in the knees, it's still going to look strange. You can start to see part of the mast coming through in the center section here. And I love the way that the front end is tipped as well, but it's nice and solid, and it does mirror the back in terms of angle. So yeah. And we didn't have too many weird spare parts left over. Things that we eventually figured out where they belong. So there we go. You think Hagrid's hair is too tall? Okay. Well, I mean, we could even do that. Why not? Last thing before we go. I am going to just pull off their hair. I will leave his ruff on, because I don't know. I think it's actually designed to be fitting around the neck, but I don't want to risk changing his height because that. Now this is Crumb as my quote-unquote regular minifigure. And do I have... That'll work. That'll do. No, it's not square. Square is essential. Okay, so I'm going to use this one, and all I'm doing is putting 1 square from the back so that when we measure them, there's space for the ruff and that doesn't tip the character. So see how tall our default is? Right, once again, height's measurement. Okay, and then this one, in order to get it correct, it also allows me to pinch it so that I'm not touching it. So that's squared. Let's go with, I'm going to go with a nail file, just because then I'm not jamming it up inside the hole. So this one comes out at approximately 4.5. I mean, we've got a camera angle involved, but 4.5. Then we've got hair back. He said Hagrid's hair is too tall. Okay, we'll rip his head off. His hair off. Fastest shave in the West, right? I love the way that it's a very generic face, because you only see the eyes and a little bit of the eyebrows. And this particular one is, I don't know if he's scuffed, or if that's actually a scar on his face, which would suggest a reprint from some other character. Or I got the wrong head in the set, and the gifter never knew about that. Okay, so he's got a weird shape to his feet. I will get you the other Hagrid with a little more normal legs for next week. But this one, once again, one spot from the back so that, or at least at the back of the feet, is 1 spot from the back so that we have room for the back of the coat. Now I'm going to square that up. And I have nothing to hold it on the front now. Great. Balance as best we can. Okay, square that up. So once again, coming in here. It's not wide enough, but that's fine. We'll deal with it. So this one, I believe, still looks to be about 5.5 tall. So yes, the hair makes a bit more, like it is more than 5.5, but it's not quite as thick a 5.5. Now I do have this tip, so yeah, there is something to be said for that. But it's still approximately 5.5 tall, more or less. Just a shorter 5.5. And then that suggests the hair is actually quite shallow and thin at the top. And then this one, same Lego piece. Throw her on the top, and then we will raid out because Mondays I don't usually have somebody who follows me, but you never know what's going to happen. Right? Okay, so we've got Madame Maxine squared up. Okay, and then I said without the hair, right? Darn it. She looks really weird bald, actually. Last one. All right, so she's up against the security cam footage measure. And she is, once again, almost exactly the same 5.5. So you're right, the Hagrid isn't taller in this one. And I'm pretty sure he's probably not any taller in the other model, but we can find that out next week. I mean, in the meantime, I might even build a height measurement thing, but then the camera angle will be all wrong for you guys to see it, so I'll figure out something in between. I do like, in the Harry Potter series, they did a good job of changing the heights of the characters. So in any case, yeah, we've got a great ship going. It's a great ship. It's not a good ship lollipop. And we've got a couple of funky characters in that one. Now, as I mentioned before, this is part of the new set, the newest release of this concept. There were previous ones in other years. I like this set a lot for what it is. I don't know if I like them, better or worse than the previous release of the ship, because it's bundled in with the Beauxbaton carriage, which the standalone carriage is actually far more detailed, and so in that respect, because of its extra detailing, I like that better. I don't dislike the one we have, given that it's got less detail. They did really well with what they had. But yeah, so we've got the ship. It's looking quasi-Viking-ish, and I'm hoping next week we're going to get to some of the rigging, because it looks like we have extra parts that I didn't open. Alright, so let's see what we've got on. And because I'm normally part of a Minecraft community, we're probably going to head to a Minecraft community direction. But we'll see who's up, because that determines a lot. We're up, then we're following. Okay, so we are going to go in Minecraft direction. We're going to raid into Maribel Jade. And that works because she has a redeem involved in Build Another Step, and she's also part of some of the Lego building community. So her Build Another Step thing is in between her Minecraft game moments. She also has on occasion done a complete build end to end, and that's probably a good spot to go. So thank you everybody for coming by. I really appreciate that we were able to have this time today. And I'll be back tomorrow, and hopefully I'll be a little less squirrely and a little less do-rag. Right? Yes. So let's get this one started. Find it. It's my happy button work today. Happy buttons. It's like Bob Ross Happy Trees. There we go.
Mischief managed.
Mischief managed indeed. It has been. All right then. So thank you everybody for coming by. Always a treat to have you come through. Thank you very much for the resubs, Gary and Jay. I'm spoiled when you guys do that. Thank you very much, ITT Tom, for the raid. Once again, very much appreciated that you chose to be patient with me because I wasn't on time. Thank you very much to the clue spenders today, and we had a great conversation from everybody. Fantastic Shock, Fox, and Mama Bear were the mods today. Jay was one of our clue spenders, and we had conversation from Yellow, Jay, Bob Breen, Gary, James, ITT Tom, Chronic Noob, Metalhead, Wolfen, Valente Productions, Skycast, Aimnator, and we're off to see Maribel Jade. So as you saw there, I'll be back tomorrow. Have a wonderful day. Bye-bye for now.
Transfer complete.